Howdy, folks. Thanks for joining us today. I felt that I haven't done one of these intros in a while, and I wasn't planning on doing one, but I feel I need to do this so we don't get sued, just in case here. So I needed to point out that later we'll talk about in the episode Hunter Biden and his connection to Ukraine and China. But I also mentioned that Chris Hines and also Bolger were connected to the incident. You'll learn about it later, so don't worry too much about the details. But I wanted to say that they have both claimed that they are not. Hines and Bolger have both claimed that they are not connected to the incident in any way, and said that they've never been there. They didn't have any part in the deal. So I wanted to put that out there. They are alleging that they did not have any connection, and I have not found evidence either way. But I do not want to get sued. So there's that. We do appreciate you guys coming in to listen to us today, and let us know what you think, and yeah, just enjoy the episode. All right, hello everybody. Welcome to FreeChinaPost episode 37. We're back up in it. Just listened to the one we recorded like
last week?
That was less than a week ago, right? We recorded that on the weekend, yeah?
No, last Thursday. Yeah.
Was when Ray Ray was on?
Mm-hmm.
Then the other one must have been recorded like the Saturday night before, the Sunday night before, something like that.
Really?
Thick. Yeah, because those two were recorded not too far apart, I don't think. I don't know, I've had like a bunch that got like backed up with being like super busy and stuff. But then I just put up 35 2 days ago, a day and a half ago, and I'm going to put up this next one maybe tomorrow or Saturday night maybe. So we're pumping it out, man. Trying to get all these hot drops on. I put a fat drop in the one that's going to come out before this, so hopefully people like the drops. No one's given me feedback on it yet, but they make me laugh, so I don't really care.
That's what's important. Keep yourself happy.
I mean, I'd take feedback, but if I'm not going to like beg for it or anything. So it is what it is. I don't know, man, but it's been good. You been all right?
Yes.
Busy per usual?
Yeah, I'm fucking busy as shit this week. Because, like, a whole bunch of my classes just ended. So the last guy left, instead of giving me new classes, he gave me all these fucking topic classes, which at this school means basically like a lot more preparation instead of just like teaching the regular curriculum, because it's like a whole bunch of random students, so I don't know them, I can't slack off, so yeah. I gotta work a lot harder on these ones. So basically every class this week I've had to do probably 30 minutes to an hour of prep time for like every day for school, which is way above the normal. Normally like maybe 5-10 minutes of prep time.
I was gonna say there are days at my school where I literally walk into class and say, what are we teaching, and then teach that. Like, I don't need to prepare for most of that. Just have a game, basically.
It's the difference teaching kids, but
yeah,
teaching adults is a different story, man. You can't, like yesterday, like even some of this dumb stuff, man, like that's not my fault. I mean, they like one of these, there's a listening section, and they didn't have the right listening section on the computer. Like, that's not my fault. It's not my job to like set up the listening material, because I don't even know where they would get that. I don't know how to source that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have the right listening, and they're looking at me like, oh, what the fuck, man? But, like, they're more demanding. They're just more demanding.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Adults have higher expectations. Kids generally just want to have fun, so.
Well, the kids don't fucking give a shit. The adults are there. They're paying for it. They want to learn, so.
It's true.
Kids could give a fuck.
I mean, I have some teenagers. They don't pay their own way, but they're, like, pretty... They can be a little more demanding, but...
The older they get, the more demanding they are.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's all right. That's why you got to get those one-on-ones, man. People just want to talk. You just talk to them about life. It's where the hot business is.
I appreciate them, but I don't prefer them.
I like both. I like aspects of both, but...
They're unreliable.
Yeah, it depends. Mine are super reliable. Like, mine... Like, I probably take off as much time as they do. Take off like a few times a month, and I also have a lot of hours.
That's pretty unreliable. Like,
no. I meant to say a year. I said a month. I mean, like, one of my students is taking out for the first time in probably 3 months this next Saturday. So
I remember with your Sunday 101s a few months ago, man. You guys did almost a month where you didn't see each other.
yeah, she took off like it was like I took off 1 week I think because went to Korea, and then she took off 2 weeks because she's like a little bit different because she's like a dancer, so she has to like go to performances and like also has to like there are certain performances she has to go watch, and sometimes she goes overseas for like a couple weeks to like do performances. So that one is kind of what you're talking about, but for like the other ones, the two like older engineers that I do, they're always working anyway, so they just usually come in. Like one of them will cancel like every maybe 2 or 3 times every 6 months just because he's like really tired, but that's okay because like I want to take a break sometimes, and like I said, I work a lot of hours compared to like a normal teacher here.
I feel like with one-on-one also, with a group class, especially with Gloria, man, I didn't realize until I left Gloria how much fucking downtime there is. Like,
yeah, it's
how
true.
much time do you... Kindergarten classes are different in general, but like,
Yeah.
for the most part, you got a shitload of downtime where they're just doing their stupid books and you're basically just doing nothing. So
Yeah,
you can
you're
relax.
talking
With the
with
one-on-one,
a Taiwanese teacher or something.
well, yeah, exactly. One-on-ones, you got to be on the whole fucking time.
It's true.
I mean, depends on your activity, but for the most part.
Yeah, it depends on the one-on-one. I have younger kids where I make them like their parents give them books, so I like make them do the bookwork in class because they won't do it as homework. So it's the same kind of thing. But yeah, it's true. It's true, especially for the older, like the adults and stuff. They just want to talk, but I don't know. It depends on the personality too, because like one of them, he just asked me about like America and politics and like my like
Totally depends. Every
views.
student is different.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. It's fun. Whatever it is, it's interesting at least.
Whatever it is.
Forget it.
Whoever these fucking people are.
Who cares as long as I get paid, you know? Yeah. But yeah. Do you want to talk about the thing you sent me up front?
Sure.
You want to front load that bad boy?
Yeah.
All right, so for the babies at home, our sweet babies, what are we talking about here?
The SAT, the College Board, which is the organization that oversees the administration of the SAT test in America, basically said that now, in addition to because originally they had 2 sections, nice and simple. They had verbal and basically arithmetic. And then they added another section, the writing, which, in my opinion, and in the opinion of most people, is a complete disaster, a waste of time, a way for them to extract more money and do very, very little because of the inherent biases. And I should admit, I have shitty handwriting, so I got fucked hard on the writing section, even though I've gotten lots of compliments for my writing from all my fucking high school teachers. So like, I was always penned as like one of the best in the classes, and I really, even though my grammar is like stupendous, my spelling is stupendous, they fucked me on the writing portion because my handwriting is garbage.
Yeah, my handwriting is garbage, and I'm not as good of a writer. I mean, if people want to compare our writing, they can go on the site and see. I write much more colloquial, whereas your writing is quite like formal and like use a lot of good prose and big words, where I'm just like slapping it out on the keyboard.
Anyway, they half-assed that section. It's completely fucking subjective. Most universities don't look at it, but they still include it as a way to just extract more money for the tests. It's just another fucking money-making scam for them. So now they said they're going to include a new thing, which is basically what is it called again?
I've read the article 1.5 times to try to remember all the information, and I still don't. It's called like a
adversity score.
Yeah, adversity score. That's right.
So remember we had this discussion a while ago. I said, how do you quantify adversity? So apparently the College Board, a bunch of fucking pointy-nosed academics sitting in their little ivory tower.
Is that an anti-Semitic statement, Ari?
Not pointy.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Pointy-headed.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Just kidding.
Anyway,
but yeah.
they decided that they've come up with a perfect fucking mathematical formula to determine the adversity that each child in America faces based off of one fucking thing: the location of their school.
They didn't. Is it just based on school? From what I got, it was like based on like certain like census data and things like that. But maybe that's all just based on their location.
Based on the location of their school, because they.
I thought they would be tying in like household income and things like that to it, but clearly I didn't read carefully enough.
It says it's calculated using 15 factors from the student's high school and neighborhood. So maybe they have your address too, in which case this is already an extreme violation of privacy, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically, they take where you live, okay? They take where your school is, and based on those two things, and they don't even know your house probably, they just know your fucking zip code. So based on your zip code, they're going to make it harder or easier for you to get into fucking Ivy League universities. So this is a fucking retarded idea. Because, I mean, from my experience, I think that there are some benefits to it, but I think overall this is stupid, and they could have done a lot better. Here's the thing. I grew up in a mixed area, like on basically the border between a really affluent area and a really poor district of my city in Phoenix. So like it was basically the border between all three. So my school was a fucking hodgepodge. Like my school was located in kind of like an upscale-ish area, and it was bordered by basically, I don't want to say a ghetto. They basically there was a significant amount of crime in the area. No, because it wasn't bad, but it was like, for instance, okay, I lived in the same zip code as my school, I think. But anyways, I mean, it was a mixed area. Half of the kids that I went to school with, their families had net worths over $1 million, and half of them were really poor. I mean, it was like a weird thing, and this is what you get. These are the kinds of things you get. So would that have fucked me over? Because I mean, I don't know. I don't know how they would have quantified it.
Yeah, it's hard to say, right?
Anyway, so I mean, so let's say I was a poor person going to this school. Would I have gotten penalized because my classmates were rich? How the fuck is that fair? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I basically fall maybe somewhere like 50-50 on it. I think the criticisms that you raise are valid, but at the same time, there is something that needs to be done. Like, there's obviously like a huge gap within just like, because like you have like these test score differences that are like really high, and obviously like that's just because of socioeconomic status and sometimes based on race and things like that, which influences your socioeconomic status. If your parents are working 2 jobs, or both parents are out of the house 90% of the day, they don't have time to help you with homework, blah blah blah. And if your parents only have a high school diploma, I'm not saying there's not ways to get around it, but I'm just saying that like that has a big effect on you.
Yeah, but why should okay, how is this gonna help? Because like my school, let's take my school for instance. My school was located in a rich district, okay?
Yeah.
My parents split up. Both of my parents worked full fucking time. I didn't have anyone taking care of me throughout basically my entire high school. Every time I sat down to do my homework, it was because I fucking wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay? Does that not make me in an adverse situation? I don't know if I ever told you this.
Of course it does.
When I was 16 years old, okay, skateboarding a block away from my house, I got shot in my own fucking neighborhood. Random shooting.
I think you kind of told me about this before. That's fucking crazy, though.
So what? Am I not in an adverse situation because of the zip code of my school district? Fuck that shit. Who the fuck are they to use my school's fucking zip code to try and quantify the type of adversity that I faced in my life? If you want to fix these problems, then fucking this is not the solution. This is just going to exacerbate these problems. What this is going to do, and I was thinking this might be a good idea on one hand, because it will take people from rich areas and have them send their kids to schools in poor areas.
Uh-huh.
Which would be good on one hand because it will like stop the, I guess, kind of socioeconomic segregation that's taking place.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's just going to start a boatload of cheating. Students will go 3 out of 4 years to a nice high school, and then when it comes time to take the SAT, they'll re-register in a ghetto high school.
Try not to use the word ghetto so much. People don't like that. That's not an acceptable term anymore, Ari.
Are you joking me? Are you joking me? Not acceptable for who? For the Jews who lived in the ghettos in Europe?
I'm just saying. I'm just letting you know. You know because.
Let me ask you, who gets offended by that? Tell me.
I don't know. I've just heard people say like, "Oh, that's like offensive to black people," basically.
It's not even a black person word. This is a Jewish word for fuck's sake.
It's been like I'm not saying that like necessarily black people use it. It's like it's been kind of like used as to like show like, oh, like black people live in ghettos, like they're like blah 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 blah. But I know the origin of the term, and I feel like most people should. But I'm just letting you know, you can use whatever words you want. I really don't care. But I'm just saying, I don't know if anyone cares, but I'm just putting that.
Fine, I'll use the word impoverished. Okay. There's easy ways to get around this, okay? Take a rich parent, they'll rent their kid a fake apartment in an impoverished part of town, so they have an impoverished zip code. They'll send their kid for 3 years, so they have 1 credit left to take, and then they'll take 1 credit, at an impoverished school while they're applying for their SATs. Suddenly, their, 1520 SAT looks like a 2,200, because they get this adversity score. This is just giving them another way to fucking cheat.
And it's already been proven that they will and continue to cheat. I mean,
absolutely,
rich people have, even if it's not straight up like illegal cheating. It's we're gonna buy you buy you into the school via buying a wing of some auditorium, something like that.
This is why we don't need to look at these. Everyone talks about these differences. What we need to do is we need to completely ignore the Ivy Leagues. We need to treat the Ivy Leagues like the shitholes that they are, fucking intellectual incest.
I think that's is unrealistic though, as you talking about some things like changing the whole like narrative based on like what is like everyone should be in like a monogamous relationship and blah 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 blah, like things like that. I think it's so socially ingrained since the beginning of our society that like Harvard is good. Like you talk to Taiwanese students here and they're just like I ask my kids like, oh, if you go to school anywhere, and they don't say Subsidising in Taipei, they say, oh, I want to go to Harvard. And it's just like, why do you want to go there? Not all of them, of course. Like a lot of them are more realistic because like getting into Harvard is like pretty tough. And in the articles,
never get into
yes,
Harvard anymore.
Exactly. That's the thing I was just gonna say is that there's current cases ongoing that Asians are being discriminated against because of their socioeconomic status within the United States, and also their test scores are also generally higher than even white students. So I think it's a big problem, but I do think this is a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. But what I will say is that I think it is better than nothing while we solve the problems and then we get rid of it. That would be
because I think this gives rich students a new way to cheat.
So what I would say is I agree, but what they need to put regulations on that, and they need to broaden the terms of how you're finding these things. So like you could give personal information that I guess you could like somehow verify, like I come from like a single parent household, or I had some medical like disability or something like that. Like I think those things could be taken into consideration. I think those are important. At the same time, I think so. I mean,
should it not just be merit based? I don't know, Jordan.
But
I don't know.
No, because it's not equal, man. If you go to a school in Southside Chicago, or some impoverished area, or even a rural school like I went to, you are not prepared for college. I was not prepared unless your parents are rich farmers that own half the city. You don't have the money to go to these prep classes and do dual credits and things like that. Like I didn't have any way to do that.
Okay, taking your logic, you almost make it sound like they shouldn't be allowed to go to Ivy League schools because they're so far behind. Ivy League schools are supposedly known for their academic rigor.
But they're not. Trump Jr. went to Harvard. That's the end of discussion. They're not.
For his MBA, not for his undergrad.
It doesn't matter. It's all not. I think most of that's not merit based. Like, yes, granted, you'll get like probably better professors, but that doesn't mean it's more difficult. I mean, in some ways, I'm sure it probably is, but at the same time, I've talked to people who went to like the rural like colleges close to where I used to live, and I went to like the flagship school of my state, and I didn't when I was interested in the subject, I didn't feel like studying it was that much harder than how they would describe the classes.
I completely agree, but you're making the argument that we already have these embedded notions that the school's better. So I completely agree with you. We should smash that notion. We should say Ivy Leagues, like I said, it's just an incest pool of moneyed people mixed with people sending their fucking kids, legacy admits,
Mm-hmm.
It's just a giant fucking incest pool, and we should stop respecting this. And people should start wanting to go to public universities because the tuition is a fucking third of the cost. And it's also paid for by the tax dollars that you've already been fucking paying. And not only that, but But there's a symbol thing. For me, I never wanted to go to a fucking private school. I said I want to go to a public school because I like the fucking government. I like my country. Why would I want to give money to some private fucking hedge fund manager at some Ivy League school who's just gonna, give out the money to some
bougie asshole,
to some portfolio manager?
Yeah.
Because it's all about keeping their fucking endowment high. It's not about education.
Well, it's also about networking and things like that. I mean,
for a bunch of fucking cucks. But like, I'm not a fucking rich white kid. I don't fucking play lacrosse. So like, what opportunities do I have, honestly?
I mean, you would still theoretically have like networking opportunities. Like, oh, this guy was in my class, and like, oh, maybe we were in the same like club or whatever. And so like now I get a job at my friend's like private.
I worked my way through university. I didn't
firm.
fucking go to clubs.
Oh, I didn't either. Like, I mean, both of us.
So that's what I'm saying. It's
situation.
like a joke, man. It's not real. These things aren't real.
But that's what I'm saying is your idea of like smashing this idea. I think it can be achieved, but if you often ask other people to do on the podcast, is you have to think realistically about this. This is so ingrained in our culture. So while we're doing that, do we just say do nothing? Like, what would be a different proposal? 'Cause that's what I'm saying. I'm saying we reform this idea that they have, and instead of just saying, well, this could also result in more cheating, and people may like get fucked over in the process anyway, and it may maybe in some ways, if we don't change the process in which we approach this, it might exacerbate the problem with thinking that these schools are something special, when I think we both agree that they're not that much. They're historic institutions, but that's about all they've got going for them. If there's
Honestly, I don't think there's a huge problem to begin with. I think that most people already first of all, America trusts academics, America trusts universities, and America trusts Ivy League universities less than it ever fucking has. The level of respect that Americans have for like university as an institution is astronomically low. Like the majority of people that don't live in big cities, basically, they think, and this is appalling, they think that the influence of having a university system in the United States, the influence of universities as a net negative. They think it is worse. America is worse off because of universities. So I don't think there needs to be much move. America already hates the Ivy Leagues.
I mean, to one degree or another, I guess, yeah.
It's just bougie coastal elites who fucking buy into this nonsense.
Yeah, but we still need to figure out how to get good students into good schools. I mean, and I think also we need to we need to focus less on those and also focus more on, and again, this is like a state issue, which you've mentioned before, but like we have to work on revitalizing our state institutions as well, and also driving down the cost of going to school, because it's absolutely ridiculous right now.
You know what, though? I think that the states are really fucking themselves over. So these states that it's basically, the states are always like about this, we need to be competitive between states. We need to have a lower tax rate. We need to have, a better budget because it's going to bring business in. So you wait like 20, 30 years down the line, like the average income in these states, I mean, it's already broadly apparent in most states. The states that don't fund education, they've got shit fucking per capita GDPs. They've got lower development. They've got lower life expectancies. Like you look at Alabama that just passed that law. They're like at the bottom of every fucking list for everything. It is a terrible place to live by all fucking standards. So if you have a terrible state, everyone's just going to fucking move out. You're basically destroying your own future. And sometimes that's what you need, just Darwinianism. So let those places die out and become the fucking Montanas, like Michigan is becoming. Everybody's just fucking leaving.
I mean, it's true, but at the same time, it's like that in the process, you're like destroying millions and millions of people's lives, which is very dangerous.
I'm not doing anything. They're destroying their own lives.
I know you're not. I'm not saying. I'm saying the royal you. Like it's. I think that's a dangerous and a bad thing. Yeah, the outcome may be good if you're talking from a utilitarian standpoint, but I don't like to look at things that way.
There's not a lot.
I mean, we can fund social programs. We do
fund social programs.
I know. Well, there's a lot of austerity, especially coming from the Republican Party right now, trying to cut Medicare and Social Security. It's to fund fucking a border wall and like increased military presence and fucking around Iran and shit like that. Like, it's a joke, man. And also, we could get rid of private schools. Do you want to do that? I would be in favor of that.
I think that there should be no money given to private school. I don't. What do you mean? Like remove their licensure?
For colleges, I feel like I could maybe like I don't really care as much, but for like if we get rid of like elementary schools, things like that, private high schools, people would lose their shit. But I don't. I mean, I'm just speaking. This is obviously speaking from like a just like wondering what you think because
I honestly wouldn't be grossly against it. I think I don't really care either way because I think like the same bougie little shits who go to those fucking schools are the same ones who just waste all their money going to Ivy Leagues and get in these fucking incest pools. Like,
yeah, but then they end up getting really good jobs afterwards because my buddy Freddie's second cousin like has a fucking private equity firm that I can work at now, and
you're not going to stop that either way. But I agree with you. I completely agree with you. But that's deeply ingrained. I think
it's been shown to work in some like Northern European countries. Like
the problem is Americans are so fucking crazy about like freedom of choice and like letting the markets decide.
It's true.
It would be really, really difficult to get done. But I mean, I agree with you in general, and I think in America there's really no need for private schools. The quality of public schools.
Well, and it does. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If they think that charter schools are okay, if they think that charter schools are acceptable, because I went to charter schools like for elementary school. The quality is absolutely fucking horrendous.
Charter schools are a joke, and I talked about it in the teacher strike article I wrote. Like I think charter schools should be completely abolished, or at least have all of their funding cut and just be treated like a private school.
Yeah, they probably should. So if they're going to argue that the quality of charter schools is okay, then I don't see how they can argue that the quality of public schools is any. The quality of public schools, in my opinion, far exceeds that of charter schools, for the most part. Not in every school, but in
I would
general.
say, yeah, you'd have to look at each school district because there are schools in places like, rural areas and also places in major cities like Detroit where it's like absolute like ceilings collapsing on like classrooms and stuff. Like it's really, really bad.
That's building dilapidation, but I've never heard of a public school closing because they didn't have enough money. Maybe because of enough students. But that happens with charter schools all the time where they just they just use up their investment funds and they're like to all the students, don't come tomorrow, the school's closed and we're going to take the fucking money that we embezzled and fucking run. Like that shit doesn't happen with public schools, but it does with charter schools.
Well, I also think that public schools should be much more heavily funded. I mean, we have a huge issue with people using 20-year-old textbooks and not having enough textbooks for the students and things like this, or not having enough teachers. Like, we need to greatly increase the funding for public schools, and then maybe people would support or would feel more willing to go there. I mean, they're still going to be, like you said, the uber rich are always going to go to their private schools or whatever. Some fancy like district, and they're all going to move there and then get get the best stuff, and because the tax dollars. That's again we fund based on like land prices. So if you're in Beverly Hills, your school is obviously going to be way higher funded than if you live in Nebraska. That's another reason why I think that the abolition, or at least getting rid of all money or like these voucher programs and all this dumb shit, is something that would be good, because if you get rid of these private schools, which is what they've seen in some of these European countries, you force these rich people to go. And this is, again, it's a little bit different because America is so big, so it's a little bit of a different beast, but is similar, and you will see similar situations. Is they push these rich kids into the same schools, and you make these people commingle. And of course they're going to click up, like schools are cliquey anyway, and you're going to have rich kids probably hang out most of the rich kids, but you at least force them to cohabitate. It's the same thing with like busing and things like that. You force these people to be together and say, you see these people every day and you go, well, at least I realize that for the most part they're human, except for the really rich kids. They're not. They're lizard people, but whatever. I'm just kidding. I'm just talking shit, but I do think that's like a genuinely a very valid thing. Like when you segregate society based on class or race or whatever it is, then you have these problems and they just get worse, because you have people like where I grew up that have never seen a black person or never seen a Hispanic person, or never seen an Asian person. And so they can demonize them all they want because they're literally just a figment of their imagination and depictions that they see on TV.
I get what you're saying.
Okay. So yeah, I still think I'm probably more potential on that than you, but I agree. There's a lot of problems, and I would like to see it, at least if they're gonna do something, they gotta change it a lot, because
it's way too broad. And even in the article, they said that there's like stuff that they're like not releasing about it. Like they're not giving away like the whole rigmarole of how they're like rolling this out and like testing.
I think that's really disturbing that we have like an opaque fucking institution of, like I said, pointy-headed academics just sitting in a big room, talking about how to fucking make it better for the Ivy Leaguers and giving them hints on how to fucking trick their way into a better school when they don't fucking deserve it.
100%.
And you know what? Fuck the schools to begin with. Fuck those fucking Ivy Leagues. Like, the fact that we're even paying attention to them shows how sad we are.
Mothers, don't let your sons grow up to be, or your daughters grow up to be, Ivy League bastards.
Mothers, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys.
Tear down the whole system. Burn it to the ground.
I'm not saying that.
Not literally, of course. Only metaphorically, because we are a peaceful podcast. So somewhat like, is there anything else you want to say about that?
I think this is a complicated issue, and I think
for sure, yeah.
First of all, I think that money and I think opportunity needs to play a bigger part than race does. And I think there's this, because you read the article and it's obsessed. It's like they're all trying to basically find these ways to basically use race as a factor because they're afraid of the lawsuits. Why is race still being used? It should be opportunity. I really just don't get it.
I would agree with you on that.
It should be opportunity. If your parents didn't go to university, if you grew up in like the poor household or whatever, then it doesn't matter what race you are. Especially in like this modern area where not everyone fits into these, dichotomous race, black or white, Hispanic, non-Hispanic. That shit's old, and this is an old way of looking at the world.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. I mean, I still think the issue is like, I mean, there is still issues with like race and things like that. I mean, there are still very vehemently racist, vehemently anti-Semitic people out there.
Yeah, but those people are not serving on the. Those people are not the ones serving on the fucking admissions committee at Harvard.
It's true, but it does strongly affect like you. I mean, your path through it can. It doesn't.
As I said before, it should be completely fucking race blind, in my opinion. If that exists, then I'm willing to accept. Yeah, maybe.
Well,
yeah.
I don't think the current thing that they're talking about is based on race. They're trying to get around it and just measure socioeconomic status.
They're already. I mean, they're still using race at admissions. There's no question about it.
Yeah, currently. Yeah.
Because that's why those lawsuits are still going on, because they're trying to remove it. Because they never stopped using race. They're trying to use this to add on to race, or to get around it, so they can basically get around these lawsuits.
Yeah, and they're also worried about affirmative action.
According to the article.
Yeah. From what I read, they're also arguing that like they're worried about affirmative action getting overturned, and then in which case they wouldn't be able to use race anymore.
Yeah, why? I mean, you don't need to use race. Fine, use poverty, use high school, whatever, but like.
I think socioeconomic status is going to be better, and I think also a good argument for that would be that if you use socioeconomic status, you can bring these just groups that have been split up largely due to propaganda from the establishment wings, the corporatist wings of both parties, more arguably from the right wing, but both, just like separating this and making it these identity politics issues where, well, all these Mexicans are coming in, or the violent black thugs, like, or whatever, and then on the other side saying, well, these dumb hillbillies that just want to carry around guns all the time and they're killing everybody, and it's just so divisive. Whereas we could be, you could get the guy from Georgia who's lived in poverty all their life to come up with like the Asian the transfer student from Taiwan, something like that, where you meld these groups together, bonded upon like the class consciousness, which I feel like is much more important than breaking up into these small groups. We're going to accomplish a lot more if we band together based on socioeconomic status. I
think I agree with you in part, but I think class consciousness, the benefits shouldn't be overstated. It's good for overcoming adversity, but it's a dangerous thing when you use it to divide people and to exclude people.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, but when you're talking about the ultra rich versus the bottom 99%, which is what
That's not what it is though, because it's more like the top 20 versus like the bottom. Really, honestly, it's probably the top 5 versus the next 15 versus the next 20 versus the next 20 versus the next 25.
Yeah, so what I would argue, I agree with you right now, and right now it's so muddled, and we have all these identity politics issues, that I think that it gets muddled even more than just even socioeconomic status. But what it really should be is owner class versus working class, and working class should be considered if you don't have the. In my opinion, if you don't have the ability to hire and fire people and you are not making the rules of the system, then you are considered a working class individual, even if you make quite a good salary. And you should consider yourself in solidarity with everyone below and above you that is of that same mindset, or of that same position, I should say.
I don't know if I agree, because that's a really fluid state. You could be like a middle class worker. Okay, and you could turn around tomorrow and say, "Oh, I'm going to open up, a little restaurant shop, and I'm going to hire a minimum wage high school student." Does that automatically put you in a different class?
If you're exploiting work, I mean, I think to some degree it puts you in a different part of the economy for certain. But I don't think that you have to say all of the owner class is inherently bad. I think that you can say like, "Oh, this is a good," like my boss was like very good, like gave me didn't have a ton of money to pay me. I don't know what the exact thing was with the business, but like gave me free food, paid me over minimum wage, like not a lot but a little bit what she could, and like treated me very well and basically treated me like family. So that I would consider her, like I would have no problem with her. I wouldn't be like, "Oh, you need to like boycott her." But people who are exploiting the United States system and clearly exploiting workers, people like Jeff Bezos and things like that, like those are the people we need to organize against. And also these just like we were talking about, like these giant universities and things like that, these titans of just class privilege that hoard it over everyone else and basically are exclusionary groups to keep everyone from rising up through the ranks.
Except like a handful of selected token minorities.
Yeah, exactly. That's how they keep it down, as they say, "Oh, well, no, like, hey, we let like there's more black people in Harvard than ever before." And it's like, yeah, most of those are probably like, like Ben Carson's bastard son or something. Like it's a joke, man.
I like that.
But yeah, or someone who, or it's maybe it is a poor person, but it's you let 5 of them in and whoop-de-fucking do, like that doesn't make a difference for the rest of us. And so I think it's obviously we're talking about a number of things, and like this is a complex issue, but I think class consciousness is a big deal, and moving away from these dividers of race. I think we need to be aware of race because it affects people's lives, but I don't think that these are necessarily the key markers that we should be viewing people, because again, going back to like a person like Ben Carson, going back to those types of people, you can have people of color that are just as much part of the owner class that are hoarding it over everyone else and stealing wages and things like that, running HUD into the ground, whatever you want to say.
Why should we divide people by? Why should we divide people by any of these things? Why not just divide people by ideology instead? Although that's also
I think that's kind of what I'm saying, is that you would divide people, because that's what I said. I said my boss, who would technically, in my consideration of the thing, would be part of the owner class. She's an owner. She owns a business. But at the same time, we don't just say because of you are part of such and such class. But this is, I think that's the idea, is that we need to go, we are part of this struggle together to make society more equal and to make sure that companies that make billions of dollars a year, the richest man on earth, well, second richest man now, Bezos, that he's not paying any federal, or his company isn't paying any federal taxes, and that he can't exploit his workers and like not let them go to the bathroom and things like that. It's absurd. It's borderline indentured slavitude. Dude, it's totally slavitude.
Let me ask you a question, because I was thinking back about my master's. I remember I read this book.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know. It's called the Communist Manifesto.
No. I mean, I read.
I'm just kidding. We've all read the Communist Manifesto, I feel like.
Abby hasn't. That's why she's still a Marxist.
I have a copy at my house.
Anyway, I think it was called A Preface to Economic Democracy. Anyway, the theory is, according to this, is that in order to end these class conflicts and shit, if we all believe in the value of democracy, then basically every single business has to operate in the exact same principle. That basically, if you want to have a business, that you need to, if you're going to hire workers, you need to allow them immediately to buy in shares and then operate the business under the premise of a democracy where people make the decisions collectively about their own future. And not only that, but if they're going into a new company, they'll be invested in the company, so they'll also have more incentive to contribute. Blah blah blah.
So you're basically talking about like a worker-owned co-op type thing.
But not only that, that it would have to be enforced by law, so that you're not allowed to. In order to get a business license, every company has to be operated as a democracy. So no business decisions are allowed to be taken without the approval of the workers.
I'm totally in favor of that, first off, but it's not necessarily a prerequisite for me. I do
But
think
that would eliminate this tension, the old Marxist tension between, the bourgeois and the proletariat, the tension between the producers and the workers.
Yeah. And there are laws like that in the books in many countries. I believe it's
Where?
Germany. I believe it's Germany that every, it's like I think they set it for like, if it's like a small business under like 100 people or something. I don't know the exact details of the law, but I think if it's this really small business, but basically if you have a corporation, you have to was like half of the board has to be workers. So that's not exactly what you're saying, but it is part of that.
It's not what I'm saying at all. I'm talking about inculcating this kind of direct democracy, basically, and not only that, but making every single person who works at the company has to be an owner in the company. So they have these companies that have existed before of this sort. I forget one. There was one in the Basque region a while ago, like a really big one. But anyways, if you want to work there, you have to buy in. So obviously, if you don't have the money, then you go take a mortgage, basically, to buy to buy a share in the company, a worker's share, and therefore you're part owner. So like, if the company's value goes up, your fucking share goes up.
Yeah, I mean, I would say you could
If you
probably
want to
do
leave
that.
the company, you have to sell your share.
I think you could do that in another way, just when someone comes into the company, you gift them a share or whatever it is, and as you move up, that's like part of your bonus is you get a bigger portion of shares.
And then what happens when you leave?
Then you have to sell the share, of course. I think you should have to sell the share, or you have to like buy it out somehow. Maybe when you leave, then you would have to pay for it if you didn't pay for it when you joined the company. And you could still own stock in that company if you still wanted to support that company. But
yeah,
so
that works for me too. But the idea that there would need to be a rule that companies cannot exist where they don't allow workers representation, and that would eliminate this kind of conflict.
I think that's I mean, I definitely am in favor of that. Like, I've been in favor of worker-owned co-ops, which is, again, not it's pretty similar. It's not exactly the same thing, but basically workers would have oftentimes they do own parts of the company, and they definitely would have a hand in making the decisions of the company.
You can look it up. Yeah. There's a company who follows this model in the Basque region in Spain. Mondragon Corporation. It says it's got 74,000 employees.
Spell that so I and everyone else can look it up.
MON and then Dragon. MONDRAGON.
Okay.
So basically, I don't know how they're doing now, but they
have. I can tell you I guess this is 2014, but they had like $24 billion in assets, which is pretty decent.
I don't know profitability or what. And anyways.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I think that's a decent model. It's going to be quite hard to ascertain within the United States. I mean, you could sell it, and I think it could be sold because you could say it's democracy. Like, aren't you in favor of democracy? But it would determine on how people framed it, because a lot of rich people on, I think, both the right and the left would push it as, oh, this is like communism, basically.
A new version, a different form. Economic democracy is a new form of communism. Well,
I think it's closer to like I would say it's closer to like a true like democratic socialism.
it's not communism in that it's not the state that owns the means of production.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's more socialist.
It's Marxist. I mean, it follows Marx's idea.
In some ways.
That the workers need to own the means of production. I mean, back to the original thesis.
Yeah, I think I could definitely get on board with that. But yeah, I think it would be pretty difficult to come about, but if someone proposed that, I would definitely vote for it.
You're a pretty radical guy, though.
Yeah, that's true. I'm moderately radical. Depends on what topic we're talking about, I guess.
Huh. Okay. What else is going on?
You hear about all the... I mean, I think we briefly kind of sent this maybe back and forth on the old group, but have you read about any of the Biden stuff? Mainly Hunter Biden, but also Joe Biden is pretty involved in it.
As far as I know, there's still basically just accusations that Biden used his position basically to oust a prosecutor who was looking at an oil company on which Hunter Biden was on the board of directors, more or less.
But here's the thing: new shit has come to light, dude.
New shit has come to light.
Yeah.
Basically there's like a bunch of like, this is from right and left wing sites that I've been seeing this. So I read there was an article in The Intercept, and there was an article in like I forget. There was a couple of like right wing sites that I read on, like Red State and stuff like that. So essentially they're now saying that yes, the Ukraine thing, but also he's done a bunch of business in China. And like basically
Gross.
His company, I was looking stuff up about this today because I'm probably going to write an article about it. Basically, he's like tied in with the Bank of China, which is obviously a state-owned bank. Basically, everything in China is state-owned. But so it's him and John Kerry's stepson. I think his name's Christopher Hines. And then there's one other guy that like works with them. But basically, they created a company together, like a private equity firm, and they basically just like work together to do like, I mean, basically what private equity firms do, like leverage buyouts and like things like that. So basically, they're just like rich kids that like got a bunch of money because their parents are rich, and then went and like started buying up a bunch of stuff. So like a couple years after they were created, they're already worth like some like billions of dollars or something. But anyway, so like they went to China multiple times, and like one time they took Air Force 2. It was Biden, his daughter, and Hunter Biden, who is his son, one of his sons. And it was in like 2013. Oh no. There was one before that. They also went to Taiwan and met with like a bunch of Chinese executives, and also I assume Chinese executives like fucking probably Guo Taiming was there.
You mean Taiwanese?
What did I say?
You said Chinese, and I assume Chinese.
Oh yeah. Well, because Guo Taiming is Chinese to me because he's a fucking cuck. But yeah. Taiwanese and Chinese, definitely Chinese businessmen, but I assume also some Taiwanese people if they're meeting in Taiwan. But basically, like they went there. He went with Biden. They met with, obviously they're both Biden. He went with Vice President Biden at the time, and they met with Xi Dada. They met with the Vice President. What's his name? Li something.
Li Keqiang.
Li Yuan something.
It's not Li Keqiang.
I don't think so. I
The
looked
head
it up
of
today. The vice president.
Premier. Well, he's the there's no vice president. They have
the premiership. I thought it was okay. Anyway, so whoever that position is,
一般党员 is Xi Jinping, but I guess General Secretary, and then
I thought it was Li Yuan Chao or something.
I don't know
like
who that is. I'm not sure who that is.
But anyway, like they basically went there and like met with the president and like the top people in the government who control basically all of the economy of China. And basically, after 10 days after the visit, they struck a huge deal with the Bank of China, and so their company, which is called, what is it called? Something Seneca, Roman Seneca or something, I forget. Anyway, so they basically got like a bunch of partnerships with all these people through this deal. They created like this company called Bolhai Harvest, RST. So, and like they've done things like they've invested in. They did a buyout of a U.S. company in was like 2015, I think. So they did it real fucky, like some real fuckery, man. Like, so they created this company, like they came together basically, and with the like an aviation company in China. This is the Aviation Corporation or something. Anyway, so it's like a Chinese, basically a military. Like they basically build the jets and bombers and shit for China. And so they like worked together with them, and the aviation company bought 51% of this company called Hinnages or something. I forget exactly how to pronounce it, but they bought 51% of this American company, and the Biden's company, Bolhai, it's like BHR, I think is the initials they use for it, bought 49%. So basically, like together, like bought out this company, and there was like a big, basically because it was like a military, like they're, I think they consider them like a dual. They call them like a dual purpose or a dual use. I forget the word they use, but they call them a dual something company, basically because they create things for the private sector and for like the military sector. So they have like vibration equipment and like things that are used in like jets, and also used in like APCs for the military. And basically like it had to get approved, and basically right away it got approved because fucking part of the approval process was the State Department, of which John Kerry was the head of at the time.
Well, how is John Kerry related? I don't understand.
John Kerry's son, Christopher Hines, is half of that, or a third of that company. There's Hunter Biden, who's at that time the vice president's son, and the fucking Secretary of State's son is another third of that party. And their other friend is like some rich fucking, like his dad is like some rich asshole who's like basically connected to the fucking mob. So it's so ridiculous, man. And basically they just approved it. Basically, like they approved it, I think a few days after they like put it up for a vote. And nothing's fucking happened. And also now it's come out that like The Intercept did like a really good piece about, I didn't finish reading it. I was like doing research on it before I came home from work. And like basically he's like tied up in like doing the surveillance software for Xinjiang. Like he's like part of his company is like involved in like creating that surveillance, like the facial recognition software. They bought like a company called Face Plus Plus, and it's like together with like Alibaba, who obviously I don't know how many of our listeners know who Jack Ma or Ma Yun is, but just like a big fucking like the richest man in China, just like a big piece of shit billionaire that like kind of fucked his way to the top, like basically fucked people over, not literally had sex, but like screwed people over until he got to the top. They also have like the second largest ride sharing app I guess you call it ride sharing app after Uber in the whole world. Like he's invested in that, which there's a lot of problems with the ride sharing apps. So it's bad, man. Like, and Biden recently came out and was like, oh, well, like, you know, China's not that bad. Like, China's not the problem. And it's like, Joe, you need to hang it up, buddy. Like, you're a bad guy. You're a fucking bad guy. Go away.
China is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man. They can't even figure out how to deal with the fact that they have this great division between the China Sea and the mountains in the west. They can't figure out how they're going to deal with the corruption that exists within the system. I mean, they're not bad folks, but guess what? They're not competition for us.
Your son's a fucking corrupt asshole, and apparently so is Kerry's son. But what do you expect from these fucking rich, entitled assholes that don't care about democracy? They just care about staying in power.
Seriously.
It's the same shit as Hong Kong, man. It's these oligarchs who are in control of everything, and as long as they still get a seat at the table when all is said and done, they don't really give a fuck if we still have a democracy. It's bad. But anyway, we can talk about more of that later. There's not that much to discuss. It's just kind of really fucked up, and I'm going to try to write an article sometime this weekend about that, because I think that's like something people need to read about and like know about, and never vote for Joe Biden.
Yes.
or any of these other corporatist candidates on either side. I mean, I'm obviously wouldn't vote Republican unless something very crazy happened, but
You never know what's gonna happen in the future.
it's true, man. I would never say never, but the current iteration of the party, it would be nearly impossible for you to vote for them just because of the gargoyles they are. But I mean, man, another thing, this is something we can more discuss is like the current trade war situation. So we just increased the sanctions like 200 billion, and China came back with like 60 billion, and the trade talks fell through, and now a lot of the mainstream media is doing these pieces against Trump, saying like farmers, basically like people who voted for him in the Midwest are like, I'm not going to vote for that asshole again, or like it's going to be hard for me to vote for him because like I'm losing money.
Yeah, I'm worried because I'm in favor of the trade war. So like, I don't know.
I will say more and more, like I saw Bernie Sanders say something about the trade
Honestly,
war.
It's not America's fault that all these farmers grow like shit that the Chinese buy. Like that's, if you make bad market decisions, you know, I mean, China could have just decided to stop buying it with or without the fucking trade war. Like honestly, this is not America's fault. If you wanted to grow fucking 1,000 fields of worthless soybeans, that was your own fucking choice, and you should have seen this coming like 3 years ago. Like you had time to change your crops, honestly. So like I love farmers. I think farming is like really respectable. But I don't feel bad for the farmers that are getting hit by this. I think that's their fucking problem. I think if you didn't switch, Trump's been promising this since 2016. If you didn't see this coming, then you must be fucking blind. Like
the issue is, a lot of these farmers live on, because from even where I come from, a lot of these farmers that are complaining about it, that they put on the news,
they voted for fucking Trump.
Well, okay, yes, but here's my point: is that a lot of the farmers that they're putting on the news that I saw, they're saying, I'm gonna lose, $350,000 because of this, and I say, okay, so you're a giant farmer. Like you did the thing that like some of the people I knew around where I lived did.
Monoculture.
Not just that, man.
Which is in itself a fucking mistake.
Here's what I'm trying to say. Is a lot of those people, people got tricked into doing monoculture, and I agree that like, you kind of got to be smart about it, and like
you do. I mean, that's your fucking problem, man.
It's somewhat on you, but dude, they subsidize it because of the big corn lot. A big part of it is the big
they're
corn
still
lobby.
Subsidizing. That's the saddest fucking thing, man. The government is still paying.
That's the point.
Farmers,
So some of these farmers are getting. It's the farmers are basically forced into doing that because that's the way they think they can make money, and that's what they've been doing for so long. And I agree that that's not a sustainable system, it's not a smart system, but that doesn't mean that it's not the system that the U.S. is currently pushing, because we put corn in everything. We have ethanol, we have corn syrup in almost every food that they create in the U.S.
That's not what and corn is not the one that's suffering. It's fucking soybeans.
Soybeans is bad too, but you can't grow corn every year. So to you can sell a lot of soybeans, especially to places like China and Asian countries, if they don't grow them themselves. And you have to grow soybeans basically to put nitrates back in the soil from when you grow corn.
What they could fucking do is they could use what the Bible said and let the fucking land lie fallow every few years and actually rotate the crops also like the Bible said. For all these God-fearing Christians in the fucking Midwest, they forgot what the Bible said. Like, that would help the fucking soil nutrients a lot more than dumping a whole bunch of nitrate fucking fertilizer or growing soybeans rotating once every 7 fucking years their monoculture farms.
You would have to expect them to actually read the Bible first, which most people don't. But anyway, the ones that I feel bad for are the small farmers. I have friends, I have people that are very close. Some of my best friends, their parents, their parents told the kids, don't go into farming. There's no money in it. Because if you are a small town farmer, because a lot of these farms, these small family farms, have been bought out by these big farmers who are rich.
I feel horrible for the small farmers. I feel horrible.
That's what I'm saying. It's like I feel bad for them because they basically got fucked into a situation, and they don't have. You get put into a ton of debt when you're a farmer too, because the technology progressed so fast. You basically went from, okay, well, we have a fucking Ford tractor that has a clutch on it and it goes about 4 or 5 miles an hour, and you till the whole fucking field with that thing, and it was probably a little expensive, but it was probably about like a car, maybe double the price of a car or something like that. Now they have a fucking you got to have 4 or 5 grain trucks. You got to have a combine with a fucking GPS guided system and all this shit on it. And so just
You
to
don't
keep
have
up,
to. This is
you don't have to. But a lot of these farmers, they can't pay these people to work for them. And some of them, yeah, they get good subsidies. Like a lot of these farmers do get good subsidies. But the really smart farmers that have basically, they're slowly getting their land eaten away, and they've been farming for 40, 50 fucking years. What the fuck are they supposed to do, man? Is the government going to pay for them to get trained in some other field? Or are they going to go work at fucking Walmart and sell all their fucking land? I don't think that that's a good option for them. So a lot of them go into debt and try to make it with what they have. And so I understand that. So the big farmers that are losing a bunch of money because they fucking basically bought up all the land and they still only plant corn and beans, yeah, fuck them. You're a rich asshole. You should be able to figure that fucking shit out. But if you're a fucking poor farmer that's been doing it for 20, 30 years, yeah, you're getting fucked over. And you should be mad about that. And the government should help you out of that situation, at least to some degree, or give you some other option. They should say, we'll give you a fucking subsidy for growing some other fucking fruit. Or let the ground loaf, like you said, let it lay, don't grow anything for a fucking year, and we'll pay you like a little bit of money or something.
a lot of farmers. I heard a lot of them are moving to organic because they can make more fucking money off that, and maybe this is a good thing. That if you can sell the fucking crops for twice the price and have like a better crop that's better for the fucking land, then why not do that?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm not saying it's an option for everybody, but I'm saying that this is something that people should consider if they do have.
I think that's also another thing that's what we should be pushing. We shouldn't be subsidizing corn anymore. We have fucking corn up to our fucking eyeballs. Stop subsidizing corn. We don't need to. It's a waste of fucking time and it's a waste of our fucking money. Yeah. Subsidize organic products. Subsidize. Why don't we, in certain parts of the country, we grow some more fruit or something so we can eat a little healthier. And yeah, make it all organic. And then everyone makes more money. And the government can subsidize a little bit and their citizens will be more healthy, so we'll have to pay less in medical costs. It just fucking makes sense. If
yeah,
you
but
take
you know why.
10 seconds to think about it. I know why. It's because of lobbying.
I mean, it's because of the big fucking producers who are trying to stop that stuff.
Well, fuck them, man. That's why we need to fucking implement an actual democracy in the United States instead of fucking kowtowing to these rich fucking assholes. I'm sorry, I'm getting mad. I'm also very hot right now, so, also
Turn
making me more
AC,
mad.
man.
Oh, my AC is on, but, it shoots over my head because I'm by the window is where I record, and I'm, in my boxers right now, and I'm still sweating.
Ooh.
Yeah, too bad we're not filming this one.
Jeez.
But anyway, I don't know. I kind of pushed us onto a tangent there.
It's good. This logical stuff needs to be said.
I think so too, man. I mean, we gotta start thinking with our heads a little bit more in the United States. I mean, and I think a lot of people are. It's just because it's so top down. It's a daggum shame.
Sure is.
But what else you got to talk about?
I guess I figured we were gonna talk about this abortion thing.
Oh yeah, how we have to talk about that. I forgot because I got so fired up about all the other stuff we were talking about. When I talk about China, man, I get angry. I hate China, man. Fuck that place. I hope the people get liberated, but I hope the government all gets.
Yes, need to liberate
I should stop. I should stop there. I hope the government is dealt with. I'll say that. But I hope that the people, I hope all the normal people that are not part of the CCP, I hope they get to live happy and free lives because I think they are victims just as much as a lot of other places are.
Yes.
Anyway, so what do you? What's the thought on these fucking garbage bills that they're passing in multiple states, like Ohio, Georgia, Alabama? I think there's.
Well, the only one that I heard passed was in Alabama.
They're pushing them in a lot of states, and I've seen stuff on Facebook now where they're trying to push it in Missouri, and yeah, basically it's the idea behind it for anyone that hasn't heard. If you just listen to our podcast and that's the only place you get news, which is how I would recommend you get your news. Don't watch TV or anything else. So listen to the radio. Only media you should consume is our podcast.
Oh, speaking of which, my fucking Bluetooth headphones, man, I was so pissed they died today, so I pulled out my old FM radio. That was not optimal.
That's very you. It's a very you thing to do.
It's so old. It's probably 50 years old, this FM radio, and the quality is not good.
I can imagine. What did you listen? You listen to ICRT or something?
No, just some Taiwanese station here. brackets in Taiwanese, and just played some shitty.
Some 911.
No. It's just like it's pop stuff.
I meant they were fixing by the Xinjie school. They were fixing, changing one of the buildings, and like every day I'd walk by, the guys were like blasting like Joey or like Chezidan and all that stuff, and I was just I always kept meaning to like record it and just send it to you, but I never did. But I thought it was so funny. I was like, this is so Thai.
Yeah, man, you gotta get out of the north. That's the mainstream here. The north is just filled with all these fucking pompous internationalists that fucking. Oh man, I need to stop. I almost said something that would have been very controversial. Anyways,
Right. You can say whatever you want. I can always edit it out. There's already some stuff that I'm gonna edit out of this podcast. There were some names and things like that said that I have to edit out now.
let's just say the South is more. They know that they're Taiwanese here.
Yeah. You want to say the South will rise again, right?
The South never stops. The South is the only part of Taiwan rising. Let's say that.
So what you would want to say is, don't tread on me.
Don't tread on me.
Except for fucking Fadatai, asshole.
高雄发大财。
Man, that's a shame to the South. It's like basically the giant burgeoning city is like led by a bald idiot that like doesn't have any idea what he's saying. So every time he just says, we are 高雄发大财，发大财，
就高雄发大财。
Yeah, but like basically, I mean, half of them already regret it. It was basically like Trump, man. They just felt like they weren't listened
protest
to.
vote.
Yeah, it was really a protest vote, man. And a lot of them are already pissed about that.
Good. They should feel. Everyone that voted for that guy should genuinely feel ashamed.
It's bad though. If you go to his Instagram, man, there are so many. There are still a lot of Han fans.
Yeah, I mean, of course there would be. Oh, and quickly for listeners, in our last podcast we said this a few times, and there was like a decent amount of Chinese in our last podcast. So I'm sure you can understand just via context. Fadatai
高雄发大财啊！
means like to make a lot of money, basically.
Make it.
So if you hear us say make a lot of money, it's like to be very fortunate and make a lot of money. So, and Han Guoyu is the mayor of Kaohsiung in Taiwan. And
For now.
the word, yeah, for now, hopefully not for long. And the word you said is like Han Guoyu fans.
Han Jiuhun.
Yeah. Sometimes we'll say Korean fish because his name in Chinese sounds like it literally is Korea, and then the last word is the same phonetic sound as fish. That all aside, yeah, down with Han Guoyu. Han Guoyu 去死. Anyway, do you want to talk? Okay, do you want to go to? Okay, here's the two branching paths. We have to talk about both of these before the podcast is over. Do you want to talk about another Taiwan issue?
Sure.
Or just like, okay, so I sent you, I don't remember if I sent this to you or I posted on Twitter, but I was talking to someone yesterday or 2 days ago,
Yeah.
and they said that their family is like pretty deep blue. For listeners, deep blue would be I guess technically the Conservative Party,
More
Like-
or less.
the Kuomintang, KMT, and so they're more like, even though they're the ones that split with China originally, they are also the people currently who are basically like more in favor of like reunification for the most part. Not everyone necessarily, but the main people that are in favor of like reunification would be people in that, like Han Guoyu, like Guo Taiming, those types of people. So anyway, they were telling me that their family thought they basically were like spreading these like posts saying that like Tsai Ing-wen is like secretly trying to sell Taiwan to China. Like I said, they asked me like, oh, so like they said something about Tsai Ing-wen, and like kind of like I could tell like they had like a negative attitude about her. And I said, well, yeah, she's not perfect. Like I could probably find my problems with her, but she's better than Ma Ying-jeou or some other like KMT president. And they're like, you think she's better than Ma Ying-jeou? And I was like, yeah, clearly, like, Ma Ying-jeou literally tried to pass something and basically got, like, narrowly defeated to, like, literally, like, do a cross-strait deal with China. Like, that's the definition of trying to sell out Taiwan to China. And they were like, well, like, my family thinks that, like, we're, like, Tsai Ing-wen secretly wants to sell Taiwan to China. And I was like, by doing the absolute opposite, like, she's basically done everything except for call for complete Taiwan democracy. And I was like, are you in favor of calling for a complete democracy? And they were like, well, like, no, like, that's a little dangerous. And I was
You
like,
mean
so
independence?
yeah. Not democracy, independence. And I was like, that's literally what she's done. Like, she's pushed she said like China is like encroaching on our territory. China is like pushing further and further in on us and like not letting us like rule ourselves, and we're not going to do one country, two systems. Like, it's bullshit. And I was like, do you agree with that? I was like, do you want to be like Hong Kong? And they were like, no, of course not. I was like, then why do you support these people that out and out say that like Terry Guo came out and said, oh, Taiwan and China are like the same country, basically, like we're the same people. And then he like backtracked later. It's just like, why do you support these people then? Like, is your family that stupid, or they just only watch like fake news?
Hey
like,
kid, your family's fucking stupid.
Well, this person was like an adult, so I like didn't feel that bad like being like pretty stern with them, and like we weren't being adversarial. Like, it wasn't like a mean thing or a fighting thing, but I was like I'm not gonna
dumb.
Your family's dumb as fuck, all right? Yeah, like your mom thinks that Tsai Ing-wen's trying to sell
Your mom
sell
has
out to
shit
China.
for brains.
Your mom may actually need to live in a mental institution because I think she's fucking dumb as shit. Your mom might be a nullball, you know?
Okay, and what was the result?
Basically, the person ended up agreeing with me like the whole time. They were like, yeah, that's true. Yeah. And then basically they ended with like, yeah, I'm not that political. And I was like, you need to fucking get political, because these people are trying to sell your country and the country that I live in and the country that I fucking love to a fucking authoritarian dictatorial regime that will literally definitely murder me and probably like destroy your whole family. Definitely put you into like deep servitude until everyone in Taiwan, they will do the exact same thing they've done in Xinjiang, and the same shit they're doing in Hong Kong, probably to a larger degree in Taiwan, because Hong Kong has always been a little bit closer, just obviously geographically, but also ideologically, because they're run by an oligarchy. But Taiwan has been much more independent and clearly went to war with China, so it's a little bit different. So they will probably put most of the foreigners, especially people that say shit like we do, up against a fucking wall and shoot us. But they will put a lot of Taiwanese people against the wall too. There will be mass graves everywhere if China invades. So I was like, you need to fucking think about this. I tell my students this stuff all the time to varying degrees depending on how old they are. But I'm like, you don't have to agree with everything I say, but you really need to get involved in politics. Like, it is deeply necessary for you to care about this shit.
You're absolutely right.
If you don't, like, you're fucking playing a game with your life. Like, it's a joke. I mean, it's true in the U.S. too, to a large degree. Like, if you're not involved in politics, and I get it, the same thing with Taiwan. People are overworked, and that's what I tell them. The Taiwanese teachers all the time are like, "Yo, I'm overworked and underpaid." I'm like, "Bro, you want to go out in the street and protest? I will go out with you any day. I will fucking step outside. I don't care." But people have to do shit, man. Like, people can't just talk about this stuff. People can't go, man, I'm tired of working 50 hours a week. It's like, well, then fucking vote. Like, I get it. You can't go out necessarily and protest every day. Maybe you need that check, but you can vote. And if your employer doesn't let you vote, you can fucking you can just like, I don't know. It's a little bit tough for some people, but like that's the vast minority. Like, and I think that should be dealt with. Like, voting day should be a national holiday everywhere in the whole world, except for obviously places that don't have voting, like Saudi Arabia and China. But other than that, yeah, you should be voting. And if you're making some excuse like it's not going to make a difference, oh, blah, 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 blah. Look at the fucking last election. Like, Hillary won the popular vote but lost, basically because like a few swing states, and that's a lot on her for not appealing to people. Like, I blame her mostly. But people also didn't vote, and people got apathetic, and I understand that. But at the same time, there's no room for apathy in our world anymore, man. Like, we are on the brink of shit, man. Like, stuff could happen anytime, especially in Taiwan, and so it's just like, stop with this shit. Like, apathy is fun, like, it feels good sometimes, like, and I get apathetic sometimes, but like, you got to be registered to vote. You got to be fucking voting. Like, it's super important. It's important more now than, I don't know, it's always been important, but maybe it's more important now than ever.
I totally agree with your monologue, and I think, I don't know if we've discussed this before, but I think that's one of the positive effects of Han Guoyu is that he's stoking political interest, man. You talked like a year ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Especially young people, they didn't seem to give a shit about politics, but now these meme sites, like, you can just see, man, the social culture, like the discourse, the public discourse has gotten so political and so radical. Like the 我是中立人. By the way, the guest last week, Ray, She knows the owner of that page.
For real?
For real, yeah.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
She should introduce me. We can have him on as a guest.
Anyway,
yeah.
we can talk more details about this off air.
We'll talk about it off air. I'm just saying we should. I've been trying to get like some. We need to have more Taiwanese guests on in general. We probably need to start doing some Chinese language, Mandarin. I should say I'm trying to get myself away from saying things like Chinese New Year, Chinese as a language. I've been trying to say Mandarin, Lunar New Year.
Yeah, I see that.
Which is also a problem with our. It's not necessarily a problem, and I explained this to someone else, but like people have like come up to me on Twitter. So, and sorry to derail your thing. I just want to say this real quick. It's like people have come up to me basically on Twitter, not come up to me, but they've approached me on Twitter and basically said like, "Hey, like, why do you call yourself the like FreeChinaPost?" And I'm like, it's very complicated. Like but I'll break it down for you. Like, it's multifaceted for us, I guess. Like part
It's
of it is that,
don't question me. Fuck you, but I'll tell you anyways.
fuck you, eat a shit sandwich and die. But here, I'll tell you. No, so like, I mean, because China basically says there's one China, and so if there's two Chinas, there's an authoritarian China and there's a free China, and we're the fucking free China. And I mean, Chinese, like a lot of people still identify as, not a lot of people, less and less actually identify as Chinese here. But it's also like a play on like things like the South China Post and like things like that. So
South China Morning Post.
Yeah. And I was like, and there's another. What was the other one? There's a couple like China, whatever. But anyway, I was like basically trying to show them that like we're basically partially like trolling the Chinese and like the Chinese media, the Chinese government at least. Like, so I don't know. Like I also wonder like what is your thought on like. Do you think there's anything problematic with like calling ourselves Chinese? The FreeChinaPost?
We're not Chinese, so this doesn't fucking matter anyway. It's just a stupid name, and it's supposed to be satirical. So
yeah,
if people don't have a sense of humor, then that's their fucking problem, and I don't give a shit.
I'm sympathetic to it, but the person that I explained it to, I can't shut them out. Like they're really cool. Like they were really fucking cool about it.
Well,
like,
then they should get it.
No, and they did, and that's the thing.
No
is like yeah, that's what I'm saying though. Is like that's what I thought was cool. Is like I had like a really good interaction with it because they're like,
see, it starts good conversations.
That's exactly what I said. That's what I told them. I was like, this is part of the reason why we do this is because we want to have this conversation with people. Is we want to say like, why are you identifying? Because they were already anti like CPP, and so I was like, okay, like. This is kind of the reason why we're doing this because like we're more willing, like people are more willing to engage with us like from China, and like also people in the U.S. know more about China. If we call ourselves the Free Taiwan Post, they'd be like, "Oh, how's Thailand?" Like some dumb shit like that. So it's like we can get more recognition this way, and also people who are willing to have a conversation are going to get it, and I can explain it to them, and I will. I'm not going to be an asshole about it. Like she asked this lady asked me, okay, why do you call yourself the Free China Post? And I explained it to her, and she was like, oh, that's fucking cool. That's legit. Like fuck yeah. And she's like, I'll share it, and like I'll explain it to people too. And I was like, fuck yeah, like that's dope as fuck. I appreciate it so much. And that's all it was. It was a super fucking wholesome interaction, which does not always happen on Twitter. But yeah, anyway, I derailed your monologue. I'm sorry, but I had to get that out there because I've had a few people ask me about that. Like, why, if you're in Taiwan and you think Taiwan is like its own country, why do you call yourself like the Free China Post?
I get what you're saying. I get it.
We done got it. But yeah, anyway.
I think
what else?
It's a satire. I think that people just need to lighten the fuck up. I don't know what else to say.
It's true. I mean, I understand like being very serious about it, and like there are people who are very serious about like you need to be careful with your words. Like just like I said, like I'm trying to get myself to say Mandarin more and speaking Chinese less. And I don't want to say Chinese New Year as much because there's a lot of countries that celebrate Lunar New Year, but China has kind of co-opted it.
I think that I know what you're saying. Sometimes it makes a difference, but I think that people who are so obsessed with this language policing, there's a limit to it, to where it becomes just authoritarian, where you're just basically trying to silence somebody else's speech with your own silly, arbitrary limits. So, yeah, I'm not saying this is free China, for fuck's sake. You could interpret this in a million different ways. I could say that, yeah, Taiwan is the free China. I could say that this is about freeing China, just like the free Tibet, okay?
Yeah.
That we're trying to liberate fucking mainland China. I could say the original version was the idea that Taiwan, like it or not, has been called the Republic of China and still is the fucking Republic of China on its passports, on its ID cards, in its name, in its laws, in its courts, in its understanding of itself, and in the minds of every single fucking Taiwanese people. The way they define their country in Chinese is still 中华民国, whatever the fuck you want to call it, okay?
Yeah.
So, like, you want to be in denial, that's your fucking problem, okay? The reason that I called it this was between that and the South China Morning Post. The South China Morning Post is a Hong Kong fucking newspaper that was founded before the accession to China, okay?
Yeah.
So
a good while before it, yeah.
So there's the same fucking thing is going on there, okay? You could call this whatever, the Greater Chinese Region. That doesn't mean anything, okay? That America is part of the Greater Anglophone region. That doesn't mean they're politically connected, you know? That doesn't mean that it's a sub-state or anything like that. So people need to just lighten up.
I agree, and I feel like most people who are
with their language
honest
policing.
I feel like people who are honest actors generally are. I agree with you. I mean, and I think, yeah, we should be a little, I don't know. I understand, like, with some things, like, people, because people have, like, not with the China thing, but, like, with things like certain words, like we've talked about on this podcast, with, like, words like ghetto, I can understand, because people have been, like, subject to that, and, like, they've used it as, like, a negative term to, like, describe black people, or, like, the word retarded, which probably until college, like, used very regularly, and even words like gay, like calling stuff gay, like, those things were never meant to, like, be, like, slurs against, like, those people. Like, I would never have been, like, even when I was, like, pretty Republican, like, and I'd probably say, like when I was in, like, junior high school or something, and, like, someone was, like, gay, I would just be like, that's weird, but I would never, like, call them, like, the F word, or, like, be like, you're gay, like, that's gross. Like, it was just a word, like, you're just like, wow, that's gay, like, and I think that, like, I don't know, in maybe in, like, closer circles, like, as long as you understand the meanings that other people are putting forward, like, that's, like, people can understand that, but, like, when it gets into broader body politic, and, like, you're putting stuff on the internet and stuff, like, people sometimes don't understand that, and I can understand that, but those people who are also trying to tone police you should also need to understand, when you explain yourself and you show that you're an honest actor, like, I was like, you can look through all my posts, like, I never support the CCP, like, I completely hate them and I hope they're destroyed. And the person that I was talking to was like, yep, I see that, got it, like, you're right, like, you're total, like, your values clearly show that you're in favor of this, and so I believe you with what you're saying. And that's what we have to get to, is just, like, accepting someone on their, like, you go back to biblical stuff, like, judge a fucking tree on its fruits, man. Like, what was the fruits you're bearing, as opposed to, like, being like, oh, well, like, I heard you say this, and so now, like, I don't like it. Like, you're canceled. Like, this whole canceled culture is, like, so silly to me.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that guy said one thing, so, like, he's canceled. And it's just like, no, that's stupid. Like, they probably still have a lot to interject into the conversation, and maybe they don't. And if they don't, you can judge them on that and say, like, they've been an asshole their whole lives, and so fuck them. Cool, that's cool. Like, let's judge them on what they've produced. But anyway, I keep ranting.
I agree.
Too hot, man. All right, are we gonna talk about this abortion thing?
I guess we should.
We have to before we end the podcast. So.
All right, is that the other thing you wanted to talk about?
There's a lot of stuff I wrote
things.
down. Yes, I was said one Taiwanese.
Did we
thing
not
and
talk
the other
about
thing.
that? I think we did.
What?
I thought we did.
Talk about what?
We started talking about it, then we.
The abortion issue.
Yeah.
We like dipped our toe into it. We basically started talking to it. I don't remember how we got sidetracked, but we got sidetracked.
Obviously, this is pretty fucking extreme. That's basically all there is to say. It's gonna resolve itself in the Supreme Court more than likely.
You think that the Supreme Court will overturn it?
Not on this bill. Not on this bill, probably. I think that this is going to be a really big disappointment for conservatives everywhere. And if they do overturn it, then you can kiss the Republican Party goodbye for the next fucking 2 decades.
No. What I'm saying is, are they going to overturn the? You think they will overturn the bill, or they won't they'll uphold the bill?
I think they will uphold Roe v. Wade.
You think so?
If it comes down to this bill, because this bill is fairly extreme.
It's very.
It's pretty unjustifiable in any interpretation. If you consider abortion to be murder, even in the case of rape, I don't see how that could be constitutionally construed as valid. Like, as in terms of
yeah.
especially, I mean, there's no limits. It's not like after whatever. Anyway, I really don't want to get into the details of this, but my prediction would be that the Supreme Court will, if it goes to the Supreme Court, if it gets that high, if they even want to hear it, which is not a given, they probably will not overturn Roe v. Wade over this bill. They might pick another one in the future, but not for this one. This isn't going to be the one.
Yeah, so that depends on what up the chain of how it, if it, because
higher courts can decline to hear it.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing is if they pass it and the higher courts decline to hear that, then that means that it's law.
No, because they're basically bound by the precedent of the Supreme Court right now. So most courts right now will probably strike it down. Will strike down the law, and the appealing side will probably be the state of Alabama. So the state of Alabama will try and appeal the law being struck down probably until it'll probably get to some higher court, but I don't know where it'll stop.
As we should hope so, but I mean, this is the thing that like people are like talking about. It's like this is why people are so like this is why so many women were like horrified of Trump, and like so many women have a problem with like these rules to like control their bodies basically. And I want to get like speaking scientifically, like this basically would ban an abortion after about like 6 weeks, which most women, a large portion of women would not know that they're pregnant after that. They miss their period for like 1 week, maybe 2 weeks. Some of them would find out, but not all of them would. And basically this quote unquote heartbeat law is like you don't even have a developed heart at 6 weeks. You don't have a developed nerve system, nothing. You're basically a cluster of cells and like there's blood flowing through that, but it's not like you don't have a heart at that point. And you don't even like you're not viable even. Like you're not a viable human being until like after 26 weeks or something like that. So it's not even a viability issue. Like I could see like I used to be anti-abortion. I mean, I was dragged to anti-abortion rallies when I was fucking 3rd, 4th grade. And I held a sign in by probably people in my church, there was one that I remember. I didn't go to a ton, but I've been to abortion rallies before. And anyway, like I remember I vividly remember rallies. Yeah, anti-abortion rallies.
Abortion, yeah, let's all get abortions. And just everybody an abortion rally.
Just like Oprah, an abortion for you, an abortion for you, and one abortion for you. And no, but like
for like a
the one
for like a I can just imagine like an evangelical just having a fucking stroke, having an aneurysm with the blood spurting out of their eye. Just picture of like all these just stereotypical whatever, like you say Oprah, so I'm just picturing like a bunch of minority women just like sitting there half pregnant in a big room getting free abortions provided by Oprah and the Clinton Foundation. And Joe Biden's son performing the abortions.
It's just Hunter Biden and fucking Charlie Huntz just performing all the abortions, getting paid by China to do them.
And then Obama just giving them fucking fake birth certificates along the way.
Yeah, it's not even black women. It's just all women from like Cuba,
Guatemala,
and, like Guatemala, just like coming up through here, and they like sneak them into the country and then give them abortions, and they're like, it's like the time, like the next like Bernie Sanders is president, and he's just like, if you get an abortion in our country, then you are a U.S. citizen, because the fucking top 1% of 1% is fucking you over. No, but like, yeah. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like, I think there are arguments for like viability and things like that. Like, yeah, if you've carried your baby for 26 weeks, I don't know. We should get a female to come talk about this. But my argument would be 100% in the case of rape or incest, you gotta, because they voted that down. Like, there's no exclusion for rape or incest.
So you're in favor of a post 26 week abortion ban?
Yeah, I'm basically what I'm in favor of is like 36 weeks after you have the child, you can still cut its head off if you do it yourself with a machete.
That's ridiculous.
Obviously. Obviously I'm joking. No, I would say I'm in using the word in favor is like very difficult. Like I would say I'm not in favor.
Let's say
of
you're
any
the Supreme Court justice and you have to determine if this is not even legal. If you have to determine if this is like a good idea, let's say.
I would use what most places have used is I would use the viability argument. If a fetus is viable in and of itself, then you cannot abort it. Prior to that, which is I think about, I would have to look this up, but I believe it's about 25-ish weeks. I think that's about where the cutoff should be, because before that it's essentially a cluster of cells. The nervous system hasn't developed, and I think if you want to be quote unquote pro-life, I've talked about this before. I feel like I'm a pro-life individual. I think we should increase access to contraception. I think we should increase sex education. I think we should increase everyone's living quality so they can afford those things, and also they can think more rationally as opposed to they're trying to escape something by having sex. So yeah, I think that's, and of course not all sex is like you trying to escape something, but like it can be used like that. So yeah, you can't, because they're also trying to limit contraception and things like that. So it's like you can't do both and then say you're pro-life, because what you're going to do is you're going to force people who can't afford to have these babies to go to back alley abortions, basically. And people are going to die, and you're going to put women in jail who got raped. You're going to put them in jail longer than their fucking rapist. That's repugnant. That's like one of the most disgusting things I've ever heard. Oh, you got raped, and you don't want to have the fucking demon baby that the fucking that's a little fucked up to say too, because some people do carry the baby to terms, and that baby could be beautiful. Who knows? But 25 fucking men decided that a woman shouldn't be able to have an abortion, and I don't even like using the word abortion. Just they shouldn't be able to rid their body of a clump of cells, a fucking zygote. Like they shouldn't be able to take Plan B, basically. Like it's fucking ridiculous. What do you have to say, Ari? I know you hate babies.
I'm basically in agreement with you on this.
All right. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know anyone except for like some fringe people that are like yeah, like it's a good thing to get an abortion. Like I don't think that, but like
I've talked to people before they got abortions, and I have to say it does have its purpose.
yeah, for sure. I mean,
Some people are just really, and usually they know if they're really not supposed to be having kids at this point in their lives.
exactly.
That kid
It could
just
be
the most fucked up. Like,
mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and you can talk about that in like they don't have enough money. They're not mentally prepared to raise a kid.
No, I mean like I'm talking about like, I mean,
Drug addicts.
yeah, with it they would possibly end up destroying the fetus, create a mentally retarded or a disabled child because of their negligence, and ruin this.
Yeah.
Not necessarily ruin, but make this child's life significantly more difficult
more
because
difficult,
of their
yeah.
irresponsibility.
Yeah.
That's
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Not to mention the fact that prenatal care, I mean, there are some people like, I need to get my sister on here to talk about this issue and a number of others, and I'm also lining my mom up to come on whenever we can find time, so I can talk about this with them too, and they'll have different opinions, I think, but both pretty intelligent ones. But it's like, there are just some people that aren't prepared to have babies, and until you make it so that they can... You make it easier for them to deal with that, there are going to be abortions. Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't eliminate contraception. You can't stigmatize having sex and things like this. And, like, you can't...
forced sterilization for all children.
I saw someone post that all men should have vasectomies.
That's
and then
fucking
if you...
retarded. It obviously should be the women that get sterilized.
Of course.
That's a
duh.
joke.
That's the way we've done it forever. Yeah, I know. Of
It's
course.
just a
Everyone
joke.
should... If anyone doesn't know that you're joking, they're either a first-time listener or they don't...
Their first time something.
But yeah. So, I mean, FreeChinaPost condemns these stupid backwards laws, and it's I don't know. It's just abhorrent, man. And there's just not that much you can say about it. Like, it's just so clearly like I don't even know. It's just bad. It's just dumb. It doesn't make any sense, and it's super harmful to women. And I don't know what you do with that besides vote these fucking people out. That's why it's important to vote. So if you're complaining about this and you're one of those people that's like, well, I don't vote in local elections, well, maybe fucking think about that sometime.
Yeah.
Because these are the fucking people that are, yeah, and all these fucking, of course, like the men, but these fucking Christian or these fucking women, not always Christian even, these fucking women that are voting for these abhorrent things, they need to be talked to by these people, these women who understand like what
They need
it's
to be
like.
talked
Because
to by the men. They need to have the men give them a good talking to.
the only way that women can learn anything is to be mansplained to. I think we've learned that. I think everyone is.
Oh my gosh,
clear
why is that a
on-
word? Jesus Christ.
I knew you get triggered. You're like a anti SJW snowflake.
Oh my gosh. You got that right. You got that down right.
The thing is what you got to do is you got to get that, like, if you want to like really survive in this like social, like the SJW world, which I think is
Get
getting
off
less
social
and less.
media.
I think it's getting less and less. I really do think it's getting less and less, because even like some of the big lefties, they're like big like titans. They're very anti like identity politics and like SJW stuff. There are still people that do it, and they're mostly celebrities. It's mostly like people who don't actually understand politics but like pretend like they do. So I think it's getting better. I genuinely do. I think it's getting much better.
Thank the fucking like Vox and all.
What you have to do is you have to have that like underlying thing. So like, you know, if someone like comes at me, I'll just be like, I'm sorry, did you know that I'm Native American? And they'll be like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't know that. And I'd be like, yeah, that's right. 1/16 Chickamauga Cherokee, motherfucker. Back the fuck up.
Oh, and they're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, why are you misrepresenting yourself as a minority, white privileged cuck?"
No, yeah, of course I would never say that. But at the same time, if people come at me with some identity politics shit, usually I just ignore them, because I'm like, you're not serious. Like, this is the same people that like vote for fucking Buttigieg, who doesn't have any fucking policies. Like, it's like, okay.
Part of where the left and the center left have gone wrong is we've been so policy-led that we haven't been as philosophical. We like to think of ourselves as the intellectual ones, but the truth is the right has done a better job.
Like, I had an argument with one of those people before. Like, she was like telling me,
I think you told me this on Twitter.
yeah, telling
Twitter
me how
is so dumb.
Dude, Twitter is great. You have to pick who you follow, and you have to stick to that.
I follow like 10 news sites and I just post hate on there. But man, just the people who are popular, they're just so self-righteous.
You follow too many mainstream media shit.
I follow
man.
like 10
my-
things.
I follow, for Free China Post, I follow over it's something like 400 people, and I almost never. Granted, you troll more than I do, but I almost never encounter people who are unreasonable. Except for Umaodang, the Chinese trolls, and sometimes when I get feisty, or basically when I get feisty, because I follow, I think it's CNBC. They post the same 10 articles every week. This is what Bill Gates has to say on wealth. This is how millennials could save enough money to buy a mansion, and blah blah blah. And so I'll just troll post on them, because it's stupid. Like, they're saying dumb stuff. They're like, well, you know, if you wake up early and you work really hard, well, you can make it too. You could be the next Bill Gates. You could be the next big billionaire. And then so I just post like shit, like they'll be like, the 3 secrets to like making $1 million, and I'll be like, have rich parents, get like supported by your uncle who's like basically like a fucking garbage capitalist that basically like fucks over everyone he meets. 3, like win the fucking lottery. And then like some people will be like, that's not true, like you can do this, and I'll be like, yeah, what fucking job are you working? They'll be like, I'm a fucking coal miner, and I'm just like, well, I feel really bad for you.
The coal miners aren't using Twitter, man. You're
I'm just kidding. I'm of course exaggerating. No, it'll be people like we encountered on Twitter before, who are like, well, I got like a $300 boost in my pay, and it's just like, well, then you're a fucking rich asshole. Like, fuck you.
Wow. I just wanted to share with you, speaking of which, I had to go to this lecture today, and I came on late. It was really humiliating. It's like I didn't realize what time it started, and then I needed to leave early because I had to work because I'm the only one in the room who has a fucking job.
Yeah, unlike these entitled pricks.
Well, in Taiwan it's different, man. Most of them don't have part-time jobs. They're all just like they're students first and students only. 'Cause they spend all the. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna start on that. The point is, he was from Zhengda. He was like a professor on Chinese politics, and he wrote up a whole bunch of interesting points. But he was saying like, basically, like when he graduated, so he was probably like 40 something, 50 something. He's like, in the 90s, okay, the starting salary with like a bachelor's degree was 30K, and with a master's degree was about 40K. And now the jobs are harder to find, and obviously they're like lower. Like a lot of the people I know, like have like not bad degrees, like engineering degrees. They're making between 25 and a max of 30K.
That's absurd.
Even with a master's, they're making like maybe 40 if they're lucky. So what that shows is that unlike anywhere else in the fucking developed world, the salaries haven't risen for like 35 fucking years. And that's why you can see like some of these fucking cucks who like haven't done anything with their lives, who have been there since like the 1920s, are still basically making the same money that they made when they came here, like back when they were actually like
Fried potatoes.
you know, in their 20s. So it affects foreigners.
Honestly, it's not this. It's the same as the U.S. man. Wages haven't risen since the 1970s.
That's not true, man. That's not true. The wages in my state have risen about 30% since I left, like about 4 years ago. That's
compared to inflation. It's honestly
Taiwan has
the majority of the U.S. is almost nothing.
I agree with you. But Taiwan is worse because not only have they gone through inflation, the numbers have gone down, man.
Yeah,
not only have they gone up,
fucked.
they've gone fucking down. I'll send you the recording from this lecture. Like it was.
Yeah, I would like to see that because the Taiwanese economy is by every metric is doing better.
Yeah, but it's because they're not sharing it, man. These minuscule minimum wage increases, and you look at fucking.
It's the same with the U.S. to a different degree. I agree with you. It's a different degree, but that's what I'm saying. It's like people should find solidarity in other countries, and workers should rise up and guillotine all the capitalists.
Eventually, it's going to be an end to the. You can see, man, how desperate a lot of these schools are getting for foreign teachers, and the quality is getting lower and lower because the salary differential is just dropping, man. Like.
Oh, dude, at my school right now, there's multiple teachers who don't work Saturdays, which is like unheard of. Multiple new teachers that are like, I won't work Saturdays, and they're happy. The thing is because that's the thing is they're not invested in Taiwan.
Because hire scum, and they keep their scum on for longer. The real scum, they know they can milk the system, and they just stay there for like a decade, maybe a decade and a half, and then they die.
Yeah, it's true. You're not wrong. Most
AIDS.
of them. The thing is most of them come here and leave within a year.
That's true.
And so they don't care. It doesn't make a difference to them as long as they're teaching. Like there's multiple teachers that I've seen here that if they were my employee, there's no doubt in my mind either I would first try to like talk to them and go through intensive training, but I know that
The top 1%.
talk to them multiple times, and they're just. I don't know what their problem is. Like I don't know if it's that they're stupid, or they're just lazy, or they just don't understand how to be a teacher and how to interact with people. Maybe they just have no social skills. But it's just I stand by the front desk when people are getting their pay and stuff, and it's just mind-boggling the things that they say.
Like what?
At this point, the boys' roasting got too specific. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Yeah, no one should live in that city.
No one should live in the north. Honestly.
I don't know, man. I like where I live. The place I live is not bad.
The longer I'm here, man, the more I realize like how fucking awful it is up there. In a lot of ways.
The thing that
I like living with you, Jordan, but other than that.
What we have to get to is just get so rich. So here's what we're gonna do. Is basically we're gonna do this until we get our permanent residency, And then we're going to monetize this beautiful podcast of ours, because by then we'll have probably over like 3-4 million listeners. And so we're going to just say, you know, we'll put out extra content where we'll say like words that we're not allowed to say. So we'll say like, you know, vicious racial slurs, but we'll put it behind a paywall like the New York Times does. And so then people will pay to hear that, and we'll make a lot of money. And then we'll own houses maybe in the north and the south. We'll buy a house in the north and the south. And so maybe wintertime we'll live in the south, and during the summertime we'll live in the north. But anytime we want to, we can go to the south and go to the beach, because the beaches are nicer in the south.
I don't know why you want to stay in the north so bad.
I don't know. It's convenient, man, and I like it. I like where I live. Like, the place I live is, like, cool for me. So, I don't know.
Oh my god.
What?
Nothing. I shouldn't be doing this while we're talking. I was just scrolling through dumb pictures, and I saw this picture of. Wow, I'll just share it.
All right. You can
What
just send it
is
to me.
this? This is weird. There's a picture of a little girl, and her, like, it looks like her gangster father or something was out counting his money, and then he went to go do something. So there's a picture of this little girl, probably like 6 years old. There's just a stack of like 100 renminbi notes, and she just cut out the picture of Mao on each fucking note. There's like,
Oh, I've seen that before. Yeah,
this is,
that picture is crazy.
I'm gonna send that.
That's a good picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically it's like for anyone who hasn't seen this picture, maybe we'll post it I'll post a link to it when I post the podcast, but like basically you can see it's like when you cut like the paper humans, like if anyone's seen Us, like when you cut the paper people and they're like all holding hands and you like stretch it out, or like say you cut like a paper like snowflake, you cut it up and then you stretch it out and it's just all like connected, but there's like holes in the middle. So she cut all the Mao faces out, and like it's just like a bunch of faceless like $100 notes basically, and it's incredible. That's why we're doing this podcast, is so in 5 or 10 years every Mao face is cut off of every bill in China, and it's a fucking free country. All right, you got any more hot issues to talk about?
I thought I did.
The ones I wrote down are China making threats to the U.S., basically like trade war stuff. Trump basically got rid of an Obama-era light bulb bill that eliminates like the efficiency standards on half of all light bulbs, which is going to cost the average American household over $100 a year. So that's bad. Ben Shapiro, everyone's favorite little whiny mouth, fast-talking, worthless tool. He got destroyed on British media. Mayor Pete Buttigieg said that identity politics are corrosive, even though
he plays that all the fucking time, man.
Yep, and he doesn't have he doesn't have a political ideology. He literally said he would rather talk about like philosophy than he would talk about his policy.
I also think it's important that we not drown people in minutiae before we've vindicated the values that animate our policies. Because as Democrats, this is a habit that we have. We go right to the policy proposals, and we expect people to be able to figure out what our values must be from that. I expect that it will be very easy and clear to tell where I stand on every specific policy challenge of our time, but I'm going to take the time to lay that out while also talking about values and everyday impacts, rather than competing strictly on the theoretical elegance of the proposals themselves.
Fuck him.
You've convinced me.
Bullshit. He's a Bernie. He's just like all these other fucking actors, man. He's just like Biden and all. He's just a young Biden. And the mainstream media is like posting things like, oh, like policy can be hot again, and like posting him, and it's like he literally said that he doesn't like policy. He said he doesn't want to talk about policy. His website does not have a policy listing. And I got onto Kamala Harris and I got onto Cory Booker about this, but they both have put policies up and they've talked about policies. He basically refuses to talk about any policy. And also Beto O'Rourke, he live streamed himself getting a haircut, and everyone on Twitter shit in his mouth.
Beto O'Rourke.
What a loser. Oh, also, I mean, like, Buttigieg is like going through the whole scandal now with like he like fired like the first black police chief in South Bend, and like doesn't really have a good reason for it. And I mean, there was like some corruption scandal, but like the police chief was basically saying like there was racism against him, and like Buttigieg is like, meh, you know, I don't know, I'm not sure. And everyone's like, can you like release some evidence? And he's like, meh, I don't know, no, I don't know what's happening. I'm just, you know, I'm just here. And it's just like, well, then no one fucking cares about you, and that's why your polls haven't been going up. Oh, also, this is not something I wrote down, but I saw this recently, is that if you look at phone polling versus non-landline polling, the differences between Biden and Bernie are insane. Like, landline polling is like 38% Biden and like 20s Bernie, and it's basically flipped if you do non-landline polling.
Interesting. That's like a methodological difference then.
Dude, okay, so here's what I need to tell everybody.
Interesting.
If you are looking at polls of the Democratic Party, for the Republican Party, I don't know, it's kind of a shit fist right now.
Oh,
But if you're looking at it's good, but it's only good in the bedroom. It's not so good when you're looking at polls.
Oh, I was talking about the food.
Oh, yeah, me too. I mean, when you eat a shit fist in your bed. Anyway,
it's a vegetable, Jordan. It's the name of a vegetable.
All right, I'm done trying to trying to act like I'm gonna keep this conversation
Thank you.
on. I give up. You win. You're right. Whatever you think is a SF, I think you're right.
If you'd only admitted that from the start.
I always admit that you're right. You're always right, Ari. Bow down to you. If you're looking at these polls on the Democratic side, you have to look at the methodology. There were multiple polls that just came out, and Biden was posting them on his thing, and people went in and looked at the methodology. Literally no one under 50 is registered. It's only people over 50. That's a joke. That's a fake fucking poll. That's not real. That's not real polling data.
See, that's because like I hear my dad. I'm like, because my dad's like, what do you think about Biden dropping in? I'm like, well, obviously I think Bernie is probably better. And he's like, well, he probably doesn't have a good chance to win. But this is how people think, man. So that's why this is dangerous when you.
Dude, yeah, and you want to talk about electability? Let's talk about electability, okay? Because this is a big mainstream Democratic talking point.
Yes.
Electability. How many times has Biden run for president?
11.
2.
Oh.
How many? How many? How many primary states has he won?
94.
Negative 94. He's won 0. The legit number is 0. Bernie, how many times has he run? 1 time. How many states has he won? 150. That's right. No, he won like 23. That's fucking electability. When you come off of no name recognition, you're a fucking senator from a state that no one gives a shit about. You run for the first time against a fucking political powerhouse and you almost fucking beat her. That's fucking electability. Shut the fuck up. You talk about electability.
Well, I don't like that language about Vermont, Jordan. You shouldn't call it a state that nobody gives a shit about.
Okay, you're right. I like Vermont. Birmingham is nice. Okay, sorry. I apologize, Vermont. Any Vermont listeners, I apologize. I'm not saying your state is bad. I'm just saying it's not like a swing state. You know what I'm saying? We love everyone here, even if you're from like some shit state like Nebraska.
Your sister lived there?
Yeah, that's why I said it. It's because I know that like she won't be offended because she'll think it's funny. And I used to live in Nebraska too. It's okay. I'm just kidding. All these are jokes. What else did I write down? So there's like a bunch of stuff about like issuing subpoenas. That whole thing. We should talk about that later because that's going to be a long discussion.
Maybe we should actually stop talking because it's like 2 a.m. And it's been 2 hours in and I got shit to do tomorrow.
That sounds like a terrible idea. I mean, we're going to cut like 50% of this, and there's a bee crawling on me right now. So we should probably keep going, right?
You're definitely not going to cut 50% of this. We'll probably cut like 5 minutes at most, man.
Nah, yeah, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna add like 10 minutes of drops, and I'm gonna cut like a minute and a half.
Those radio machines have all these sound effects, bang, and then fart noises.
It's just gonna be like, what's everybody? Welcome to the Free China Post. And it's just gonna be like, so yeah, basically that's gonna be what it is. It's gonna be like a fucking Carl Winslow podcast.
What a nightmare.
Yeah. Anyway, it'll be fine. All right. Yeah, you're probably right though. We should probably cut it off. I got a couple things. I'll try to think about them more. We'll talk about some new stuff. Again, if anyone's got some stuff we should talk about, feel free to, you can, if you want to be anonymous, you can social at FreeChinaPost.com, email me. You can also, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Man, I've been slacking on the Instagram, though. Don't message us on Instagram, but follow our Instagram.
You should post some of the memes.
Start making some damn memes,
I made
man.
a lot of memes about you and,
Destroy the child.
So those are probably not the ones you should post.
you sure?
I think those should probably be pre-approved. But you can definitely post. Like, we need to make some more like Hangul Yu memes. I was trying to make there's the Hangul Yu with him like opening his shirt like Superman, where it's like shows the ROC flag.
There's a whole bunch. There's one with him.
I know, with the China flag. I
And
was
boobs.
literally.
Did
You
you see-
yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I
There's
saw
one where he's filled with straw.
and there's one where he's filled with RMB. You sent me that big post literally when I was editing my picture of him, like with the I was putting the China flag onto his chest.
Well, then it's good I sent that to you so you didn't accidentally post that and make a fool of yourself.
Yeah, I know, but I was just like, fuck. But I'm gonna share that one. I'm gonna not the one I make. I'm gonna share the original one and give props to the creator because they beat me to it. They won the battle, so I got to give them props. But we had the same idea, and so that's why I think that idea is a good one. But yeah, we got to work on creating memes. Also, I've been thinking about this as like kind of an exiting topic. Is I've been like I've kind of just been hoping because I have like a lot of friends that are like very musically inclined, and I'm gonna have Seth back on. Speaking of musically inclined people. Because he's got a big announcement. I don't know if I can announce it on podcast, but Seth, who is my friend in the band Afterwards, who I had on for like episode 20 something. Just look for Seth in the podcast descriptions. It's really good talk, but he's in a band and they're going to be performing with a band that I think is like fucking killer, and so he's going to be back on in the coming weeks. So
One
that would
Direction.
be fun too. Yeah, it's actually the Beastie Boys, and
Really?
it's gonna be fucking hot as shit. No, of course not. I'm not gonna say the band it is because I don't know if he like DM'd me basically and was like, "Yo, I'm gonna be on stage with this fucking band that's like sick," and I totally agree, they're dope as fuck. And so, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. He didn't like tell me not to, but he also didn't say I could. So I don't know. But anyway, he'll be back on.
So it's
soon,
not One Direction.
I can confirm that it is not One Direction, unfortunately.
Oh man, then it's got to be the Beatles.
I'm not going to say. I don't want to spoil it. It might be the Beatles. I don't know. But yeah. Anyway, but what my point in saying all that was that I was
The Black Dahlia Murder.
I'm like kind of wondering like if someone made like music for our podcast, I'm like cuz like it would be cool to have like an intro song for our podcast, right? Or do you think that would be dumb? Because I've also been thinking about like trying to do it myself. Like there's a couple episodes where I like basically put music in and like talked over
it has
it.
to be fitting. I mean, we can't have like an acoustic, like soft, like, and it can't be too rock. It's got. I mean, because this is like a politics thing. It's got to be like, it's got to have some standing.
It's got to be like a hard fucking trap beat,
You don't want it too trap.
just like
You don't want
a political rap.
It's got to sound like the intro to like Fareed Zakaria. Let's just say that.
Okay, I know what we can do. We can do like
Just download
you,
Fruity Loops.
me, maybe a few other people. We get together and we do a remix of the Mulan
Oh
song.
my fucking gosh. Okay.
And we're just like let's get down to business to defeat Wen Shong. And like that's my first line. That's what I got. So like Winnie Shong, obviously being Winnie the Pooh for people who don't understand Chinese, and Winning the Pooh is obviously Xi Jinping, who is the emperor of China. So if you feel like getting on the internet soon, definitely post a meme where you say like you post Winnie the Pooh and then you say, oh, this is like Xi Jinping, and people will get really mad at you, and it's really fun.
The speaker mentioned that to all these the mainlanders here obviously are like a little bit different, but I don't know, man.
They have to be kind of okay with it.
Well, one of them, he's in this class. I mean, first of all, just about any political science professor here is like not going to be like pro-China. but he took a class which is basically the entire premise of the class is about Chinese propaganda and censorship. And he just like sits next to me every day, every week in this class, and they're basically like, this is what China does, this is what China does. So it's like, it's weird. I mean, it's not, I mean, this is a seminar, like a graduate level seminar, so it's not like he's just sitting there. He's like, well, like sometimes it's like this and sometimes it's not, blah, blah, blah. He always has, his little interjections, but it's incredible how, if people like basically spent an entire semester talking shit about how horrible America was, it would bother me. It would really bother me.
The issue is, I think that a lot of those people, it was the same point, the same degree, the same point, but to a lesser degree in a lot of my history class. Not a lot of, at least one of my main history classes in the United States we did basically a survey of Asia. So it's like basically Asia from the creation of Asia until like basically the end. So it's basically all of Chinese history. And my professor was like an incredibly intelligent guy. Like he was from South Korea. He was like super smart, knew so much about like history of like I would talk to him about Taiwan, because like I hadn't been to Taiwan at the time, but I was pretty sure I was going there, and I would talk to him about it, and he like knew a lot of shit about Taiwan, and he would talk to me about like Korea and stuff like this. And there was like probably 60 people in the class, and there was a lot of Chinese students, because I think they thought it would be an easy A. But he would say stuff and they'd be like, that's not true, and he'd be like, yes it is. He'd be like, tell me what's the truth then. And they'd be like, well, well, like, like, well,
Can you give me an example of like what they were saying was untrue?
I would have to think about it. It would basically be like, I think it was probably closer to when China came to fruition. I would have to go back over my notes and that shit. But I just remember them like literally standing up and like not standing up in class, but like raising their hands and being like, no, that's not true. And he'd be like, yeah, but like it kind of is. And they would just be like, no, that's not true. And that's basically where he'd be like, okay, well, like it is, but like, I'm not gonna have like a fucking drag out argument with you in class. Basically, it was just like that was the first time I realized, like, I was like, oh, like some of these people, like, because most of them, like the majority of people in that class it was probably 60% Asian students, and maybe 40% of that were maybe 60% of that 60% were Chinese. I had a few Taiwanese, a few Japanese, and a few like basically like different other like Hong Kong or something. And then probably 40% of it were like frat kids, because it was like a survey course. So it's like a basic level history course. And so like it was just surprising to me, because like no one would challenge anyone basically. Like no one really knew anything about Asia, especially.
That's why they're taking a survey class.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was like surprising to me, because like I was like probably a third year student, but I was probably a second year history student at this time, and like I knew very little about Asia. But I knew that Taiwan and China were different countries, and like definitely when we talked about Taiwan, they were like, I don't know, like like they're kind of like the same country, like things like that. And I was just like, nah, not for real though. Like I didn't speak out that much because I didn't feel like I knew enough. But he would kind of give them pushback on it, and I was like, all right, this dude's all right. Like he kind of knows what he's fucking talking about.
They have to, man.
He's a fucking professor, man. I mean, he definitely knew what he was talking about. And it's the same thing with like. I've had pretty good friends that were from China, and that's again why I want China to be liberated. I wish no ill will on like the normal Chinese citizen, because I think the majority of them are just like any other citizenry. But the government is evil. It's bad, and they're looking for the destruction of basically everyone. So anyway, not to digress on that too much. We should probably end. You sound like you're a little tired.
Pretty tired. I'll send you that recording though.
All right, yeah, hit me with that. I'll listen to it on the way to work tomorrow.
It's hard. It's a little hard. I don't know how good the recording is, and the teacher spoke really fast. The professor.
Is it in English or Chinese?
Chinese.
All right, I'll do my best.
It's not terrible. It was okay for me, but
your Chinese is better than mine though.
Some of the mainland students, actually, there's normally the northern accents are the ones that get me. There's a mainland girl behind me. She didn't say much, I guess, but her accent was clearer than the guy who was sitting next to me. This one guy in my class, he's from Fujian, which is basically like, I mean, I mean, it's basically he's from Minzhong, like which is almost Minnan. So like, I mean, you would think that the accent would be pretty similar, but he's still. I mean,
Yeah.
there's still a lot of like Beijing influence in the way he talks, and it's just not clear.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like muddled. I don't know what it is about mainlanders.
Well, it's the standardization of the language within the
It's
country.
not. I mean, it's. I don't understand it because like if you go to the south, you go to major cities.
Mhm.
Even if you go to the country, most people speak relatively clear, but there's a portion of the population who just speak like they have a wet sock in their mouth, including Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping, I don't know what the fuck he's saying half the time. His accent is just almost indecipherable to me. And it's true that they use different vocabulary and shit as well, but like...
For sure. And I mean, some of them use like, I mean, some of it's like very standard, but like almost every province has its own like dialect.
It's true, but I mean, I had hour-long conversations with people in just about every city I went to. There's just a handful of people, probably like 20-30%, who just talk like they've got a wet sock in their mouth. It's just no matter what they just can't fucking speak clearly. It's just muddled to shit.
Yeah. I feel that, man.
Taiwanese people generally don't have this problem. Oh, by the way, I brought one of my Taiwanese friends to meet Ashun. And she even said, "Oh my gosh, his accent is so strong. I don't know what he's saying." I was like, he has an accent. He's fucking Taiwanese. Like,
he does though. Like every time he calls me,
I told her that. I was like, he's got a lot of Taiwanese influence, and I don't know what you're saying. And she laughed it off, and then she realized what I meant. Like,
yeah, it's very. He basically speaks like Taiwanese Mandarin. It's insane. Cause like when like every time he calls me, I'm just like, and like I'll understand like probably it's 80% of what he says, but there's times I'm just like, 你在说一次 like 听不懂，你要说什么啦？
he's an interesting guy. I met his grandfather.
Oh man, he's a good boy. I want
His
to.
grandfather was like he was so fucking drunk. Like by the end of the night. It was like the temple festival, and we probably got there like 5:30, 6. He was sober by like 9:30, 10 when we left. He could barely keep his eyes open. He was fucking plastered, and his grandfather and his mom are sitting at the table, and they're like trying to push over the beer. I'm like, no, I'm like about to leave and like drive back with someone else on the back of my bike. So yeah, I probably shouldn't chug this beer really fast.
For real, man.
He's a funny guy. But yeah, man, you should meet some of my neighbors here. They're, especially once they've had a couple drinks, man, they forget Chinese basically entirely. Like, they'll start the sentence in Chinese and it will really quickly just devolve into complete fucking Taiwanese.
Yeah. Well, we gotta get some of these people on the podcast.
Yeah, right, man. These people. Are you joking?
It's fun, man. That would be
yeah,
fun.
you'd have to go out to the street corner, like I said, with a voice recorder. These people are like.
That's okay with me, man. We could, if we can get a table, like I can.
There are tables. There are tables. You can.
Especially if we do it in Kaohsiung, I'll bring my swing arm.
No. You can't do that kind of shit. People won't talk freely. You got to get a voice recorder, and just pretend like it's nothing.
Just do it on my phone, then, man.
No, because the quality will be shit. If you get a professional voice recorder, you can record like studio quality, basically. I mean, they're not cheap, but if you did that, otherwise, just do it on your phone. But it's not going to be good.
All right, I'll do some looking, see what I can get.
If you come, I'll invite that girl, and we can have the girl that I was telling you had like a really good discussion with them, and we can have a nice like political discussion before everyone gets too drunk and angry. Because we start talking about Hungary and people start getting real feisty real fast.
Yeah, it definitely happens. All right, I'll look into it, see what I can do, see what kind of moves.
Cell phone is fine.
Right now. Yeah, cell phone's probably gonna be the thing right now. I mean,
we could do multiple cell phones.
I pay for my new setup, and so that's.
If you bring a sidearm and shit to like, this is like a back alley, man. People are gonna look at you like, what the.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the current mic I have is like best for like one person anyway. It's like you could get like two, but it'd be a little hard to get more. But I could get like a moderately like a $30 like like even your mic actually is like pretty good for recording.
There's no
multiple
outlets.
people.
You shouldn't bring anything there. You shouldn't bring anything except like a voice recorder or a cell phone, because otherwise people will like get turned off really fast. These are people who probably don't want their
Yeah.
voices like heard.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll look into it. We'll see what we can do with it, and we'll get it figured out. But yeah, we got to get more. We regardless have to get more Taiwanese people on the podcast. I mean, Ray Ray being on was like also I think good, but I think she is like a.
She's basically
She's like a definitely
female version of you.
I mean, we obviously have differences. Like,
How many?
I'd listen back to the pod. I don't know, man. I don't know. You wait till I'll post the podcast tomorrow or the next day.
I bet you just
You
fucking
can-
scrambled everything and just made it sound like.
Nah, don't do that. I didn't do that shit. I literally didn't edit anything except for I edited in some drops and I cut out silences. That's all I did. And we agree on some stuff, but we agreed on other stuff. Like, so there's a few things like
Yeah, on
because she was like
America.
she shits on America too much is what I think.
She's just trying to be a contrarian, because it's like.
I think all three of us are contrarians, and I think that's useful, but you have to know when to like rein that in.
Exactly. That's the problem with bringing new people in.
It's good to have guests though, man.
It's okay.
Especially Taiwanese guests, man.
I can bring her
I think
whenever.
It's really...
I was thinking about the mainlander, but honestly, I don't know. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know how much use, because they're not they're gonna self-censor. So like, what the fuck is the point at the end of the day?
Yeah, if you could get them to like, if we could be like, yeah, we won't, like, tell them to like leave their cell phone at home, and I'll cut all of their information out of the podcast. If they'll talk genuinely, that would be fun. But yeah, I know, because every mainlander I've talked to, I have to be as like, I knew a mainlander at one point in my life.
Yeah, I know. You've already.
That's
you've
all.
talked
That's
about
it.
him
That's
before,
it.
man.
Yeah, this is as specific as I can get. But what I'll
You've
tell
talked
you
about
is
him
that
before on the
they weren't.
pod, man.
No. But it's not the same person.
Okay.
I knew a mainlander because I worked at this Taiwanese restaurant. So I knew a mainlander. I went to a bar with this person at one point, and they were going to tell me about what they were going to do after college. And they said, "Where's your, like, my cell phone was on the table and the person's cell phone was on the table." And the person took both of these cell phones, put them on like a table like 4 or 5 tables away, and then told me what they were going to do. And it was not anything drastic. It was a very, like, I thought it was a very average thing. And the person told me like, oh, like, you know, I'm afraid of like the U.S. government or like the Chinese government basically like looking in on me, figuring out what I say, like what I'm going to do. And I was like, I don't think you're scared about the U.S. government. You're not even a fucking U.S. citizen. And the shit you're going to do later in life, like, it doesn't matter. I was just like, okay, that's fucking weird. Like, but I get it. Like, the Big Brother shit is real in the U.S., but it's way, way, way bigger in China. So,
That's true.
yeah, it's tough to get those people on. But all right. Anyway, we should wrap
Yes.
it up. I feel like we've gone long enough, and I should let you sleep. I don't know how early you have to get up tomorrow.
Early,
but I have to get
soon.
up decently early. All right, we'll do it again. I love you, buddy.
Love you too, man.
We love all of you fucking listeners. We will talk to you very soon. Don't forget to do social media stuff. Don't forget to talk to us. Just, you know, edify us. You know, that's what you need to do as good friends, is build us up. And don't forget to share us. Share, like, blah, blah, blah. All right, but we love you guys. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, bye.